introductions? Agenda is adopted. Next up, we have public comment. First up, we have Brittany for 2 minutes. Come on up.
Good evening, everyone. I know it's Wednesday night, hump day, and we all tired. It's like, bro, I'm so hungry. Why am I at this meeting? But I appreciate y'all's work. Y'all holding it down. My name is Brittany, third year public health major. I'm on the Student Health Advisory Committee. Just came from the meeting. Was suddenly called to be here by the forces of the club. I just wanted to give a quick shout out to the importance of going to the SHIP Forum on February 11th from 4 to 5:30. That is the only time where our voices and our experiences can be truly made into feedback. Tank is listening, I bear witness. I know it doesn't seem like it, but I think it's important to capitalize on opportunities to get our voice in the room. So tell all of your communities to show up, show out, be salty as ever, just show up and be ready. It's just important that they are looking for feedback, but we just gotta be there to give it. Thank you.
Awesome. Next up, we have Jackie. And then on deck, we have Michael.
Hi guys, my name is Jackie Zaneri. I am a law student. I am a head steward of the Student Workers Union, UAW Local 2865. I'm a GA delegate, and I'm really here as a member of the Berkeley Healthcare Coalition. That is a group of students that got together last year after some serious, significant changes to our health plan were made without a lot of student input and without a lot of notice that affected some people really significantly, especially student families. So the work that we've been doing has been trying to change the conversation around how we choose our student health plan to make things more open, participatory, transparent. There are a lot of steps that we have asked the university to take and that we've been pushing for because a lot of the problem was that last year the university really didn't talk to people and didn't find out what the problems would be if they changed the plan, which were problems that we actually found out really quickly because people started talking to us in the union. They also got different types of varied approval from the GA, from ASUC that were really not informed. There were some informal votes that were taken. So while we do think that things would be better this year and that we'll have a better health insurance plan, we also think it's really important that the GA and ASUC, I'll be making a little speech at the GA tomorrow too, that you don't take any informal votes right when you're presented with the information tonight, but that you have some time to ask your constituents and really get a lot of feedback. That might be something you guys know already, it probably is, but I just wanted to make sure, and that is our ask, just so that we can really make this an open and transparent process. Thanks.
Next up, we have Michael.
Hello everyone, my name is Michael. I'm a graduate student in Molecular and Cell Biology department, but really I'd like to talk to you today as a student parent. So I'm a student parent and I've been really affected by the case of dropping of the pandemic coverage last year. And first of all, I'd like to thank ASUC for the strong support that you guys have been providing for the campaign to reinstate the healthcare coverage for dependents and continuation plans. It's good to know that UHS is considering health insurance plans for this year that contain plans for dependents and continuation plans. So that's in itself a victory, and I'd like to thank myself especially because I have a 20-month-old son and it's been a struggle since May. He's been uninsured. I've been struggling between Cover California and Medical, trying to make sure there is a coverage. And me working for the university, having an opportunity to buy health insurance is a crucial thing for me and my family. So with that, I'd like to also echo what Jackie said, having seen what happened last year, knowing that you guys did not you guys didn't vote last year when the information was granted for you, I'd like to ask you again for the same support that you guys provided. Please do not have any informal votes today. Wait for after the 11th. Please continue advertising the 11th of February as the Forum for Healthcare, and hopefully both graduate students and undergrads can come together and have a dialogue between us what plan would be the best coming forward. Thank you very much.
Last up, we have Beth.
Calpert. Sorry I missed you last week. I forgot. I'm sorry. But I just wanted to update everybody on what we're doing. We had our kickoff meeting last night, which was very exciting. 76 people want to come help us save plastic bags and the bees and all the good things that we're working on. So that's really exciting. But I actually had 2 opportunities that I wanted to actually just advertise to you all because we'd love to work with you on. 2 things specifically. One, and we're working to voter modernization work. So when students register for classes, they would be automatically prompted to register to vote. And it would auto-populate their information so they could just do it much more easily. And obviously students, this needs to be more accessible. So we're working with Secretary of State Padilla and still working on finalizing a letter for student governments to sign on to and working with that. So if anyone is interested, definitely let me know. We've gotten some great support from Wes. Thank you so much for that so far. And then the other thing is we just released a report this morning on textbook affordability, and it found that 5 million students across the country annually spend $3 billion of financial aid on textbooks alone, which is definitely a huge problem for college affordability, and we are not willing to sit by anymore and say that textbooks aren't a major part of college affordability and the problem that that's facing. So this morning we released the report. Senators Morrow and Lieu came out to help us do that. So check out the article in the Daily Cal tomorrow, but we are looking to work with everyone because this is an issue I think that all your constituents would care about since everybody as a student has bought a textbook that you never used and couldn't sell back before. So if you guys are interested, just definitely let me know because those are 2 things we're working to ramp up moving into the fall and just always looking to work on. That's it. Thank you so much.
Moving on to guest presentations. First up, we have the Student Union Business and Finance team. 5 minutes and 5 minutes for questions.
Hello everyone, Jessie Adamo-Grimes. I'm the Director of Administration, Finance, and Communications for the Student Union. Before I get to some of the business and finance updates, I just want to say thank you all for your support and participation in our first annual open house. It was a great success, and it was so good to see so many of you and all the students and all the staff there, and really filling up the building. And we had about 900 participants in the bingo game for the Sox, which was great. I think they were only anticipating maybe 300 or 400, so it far exceeded their expectations. And I'd be remiss if I didn't kind of give a shout out to the marketing team who really worked. I mean, they were here until probably 2 a.m., decorating the building, making sure everything looked fantastic. So even though they're not here, I just want to give a shout out to them for that. So for business and finance, first of all, I want to welcome Shanice Jackson. She is our new the Senior Business and Finance Manager, the position that we have been talking about for the past year for recruiting and hiring. She comes to us most recently from a K-12 system up near Sacramento, but she has been in the UC system before at Davis, and also spent time in the CSU system as president of her associated students and also their VP of Finance, so we're really excited to have her join our team. And some of you may have known or seen already, but Hans Weipart, you may have interacted with him in operations. He actually joined business and finance a couple of months ago, so he works primarily with he's our business and client relations manager, so he really works with all of our contracts and our policies and making sure that they're written down, that they're consistent, because I think we've seen sort of a lack of tangible information out there. A lot of it is sort of word of mouth, and it, we need to start getting our records more in order. So that's one of his primary responsibilities. So he's got a lot of tasks kind of getting that together, but we're happy to have him on our team as well. Also, the business and finance team, Lincoln, Rob, Shanice, will all be moving over out of Channing over into Sproul. They're going into the basement level across from UCPD in room 18. I think it's BizOps is in there right now, but that move is happening on February 22nd, so they're actually going to be a little closer, which will be nice. UYEP will stay obviously in building here, but the rest of the folks will be joining us in Sproul. And then finally, I just want to say that Amazon heads off to a fantastic start. We had over 27,000 people opt into the program in just the first week alone. And last week we did, I think it was something like 300,000 packages in that first week. So it's off to a fantastic success. So keep getting the word out. We need more people to opt in. That's it. Any questions for me?
Questions? Thank you, Jessie.
Thank you.
Next up, we have SHIP for 15 minutes and 10 minutes for questions.
Hi everyone, I'm Bahar Nabab. I'm the insurance manager at UHS. I have a lot to cover with you, so I'm going to go pretty fast. So bear with me, and if you have questions, I'm happy to answer them, but we're going to go pretty fast. I have a little bit of a cold, so excuse the coughing here and there. And let me, rest assured, I'm not going to ask you to vote on anything tonight, so hopefully that makes it a little bit easier. So the SHIP renewal, just as a reminder, our current contracts are up with Aetna, MetLife, and VSP at the end of this plan year, so in mid-August. We are out to bid. We're hoping to have a 3 to 5 year contract, which is called an evergreen contract. And Wells Fargo is our broker, and they are negotiating with the carriers, and they're the ones who have the back and forth with the carrier for us. So just a current, quick refresher on our current plan. This is the undergrad premium per semester is $1,290. So the premium is made up of medical, dental, vision, as well as administrative fees. So I just wanted to lay that out there because we're going to talk a lot about the medical portion specifically tonight. Your benefit level is a platinum, which means for the majority of things, you're covered at 90%. Now there's some exceptions here and there, like your doctor's copay is just $15, etc. But by and large, you have what's considered the highest tier of insurance. We currently don't offer a dependent or continuation plan, and recently we got notified, or Aetna was notified by the state that there's a couple of changes they had to make which are going to be relevant for our conversation, so I want to point that out to you. Until recently, intercollegiate athletic sports injuries or sports-related medical costs were not covered by SHIP. They are covered by a separate athletic insurance. And the state came back recently and told Aetna, you can't do that, you have to cover athletic injuries. And so it's effective, backdated to August 15th when the plan started. So that's something new for us, and we're going to see some changes related to that. Also, until recently, we were what's considered an excess-only plan, which means if you had SHIP and, say, your parents' coverage, then SHIP was secondary outside of the tank center. The state also came back and said you can't do that either. And so SHIP is now primary. So if you have SHIP and your parents' coverage, SHIP will be your primary insurance. Now, if you had SHIP as well as you were, I don't know, let's say you had VA insurance as a vet, and you're the primary on that, then your VA insurance would likely still stay primary. So it's a little bit nuanced. If anyone has any questions, I'm happy to talk about that. But both of these would potentially impact our claims on SHIP. Next slide. Thanks. So some early directions from the CFO, Rosemary Ray. So the bids came in much more favorably than we thought. If you remember last semester, we were talking to you about potential double-digit increases up to 30%. We were worried we'd have to talk about benefits cuts with you all, but fortunately the bids came in a lot more favorably for a number of reasons. One, the Affordable Care Act has been in place a little bit longer, and so there's some more stability. There's a longer claims history with it, so carriers feel a little bit more comfortable bidding. We've made some improvements in the tank center and with our students' utilization that have improved our claims. It's also a competitive bidding process, and so a number of factors have contributed to this. So given that the bids came in more favorably, and that given the student input was really great on the RFP, and we think we had a great process, and the ACC and GA's resolutions on dependents, Rosemary felt comfortable giving some early yeses moving forward. And so, one, she's agreed to bring the dependent continuation plans back, which is a great victory for all the students. She's also agreed to keep the benefits at their current platinum level, which is great. So we're not going to be touching any benefit cuts this year, and hopefully we won't need to in future years. But what that does leave is two sets of options on the table, and those are the two I'm really going to focus on with you tonight. One is a plan that follows our current pricing structure. So what we currently have right now is a pooled setup between the undergrads and grads. So we look at your utilization in total, and we realize that the grads are slightly higher users than undergrads, and so the grads are priced higher, but the way that our current pricing is set up, there's a little bit of a cost shift. The undergrads help cover some of the costs for the grad students, and so it's not quite as high. So one option is to continue with that cost-shifted two-tier price model. The other option we're going to talk about is a split plan, where the pricing is based on undergrad utilization separately and grad utilization separately. And so you'll see that's a little more favorable for the undergrads, but definitely hits the grad students much harder. So we're going to look at those options as we go. So if you go to the next slide. And I was worried this would be hard for you all to look at. So I have handouts just for the senators. Sorry, I didn't make more. So you're looking at, this is the option 1B. This is the cost-shifted model that we currently have. What you'll see is there's 5 carriers up there. They're not identified to protect the proprietary information and the bidding process. But what you'll see is the very top row is the student pricing. And so you'll see the current price. And keep in mind, this is just the medical portion of the premium. So as I mentioned, there's multiple parts. We're just talking about the medical portion. And then you'll see, for each of the carriers, you'll see the student price as well as the dependent price. So this is the spouse or a domestic partner, their child, or if they have 2 or more children. And so some of the things I want to point out to you, if you look at this, carriers A, C, and D, I believe, if you look at this, they're following what's called price parity. So they've priced the dependents the same as the students. That's how they've interpreted the law, that they have to do that. But carriers B and E aren't following price parity, and so they've set the dependent prices higher. The other thing you'll notice is A, B, and D, the way they price the children on the plan is you pay 1 time for 1 child, 2 times for 2 children, but if you have more than 3 children, you still just pay the 2-child price. The ones that don't have price parity, so B and E that have priced the student or the dependents higher, they cap at 1 child. So 1, 2, 3 is the same as 1. So we put these on there for you. The percentages are the percent difference with the current plan. So you can see the up and down. Voluntary undergrad refers to concurrent enrollment undergrad. They're only here in the spring. And voluntary grad or filing fee grad students. The other thing I want to point out for you is A through D offer the dependents the same plan as the students, but E offers them a gold plan, so it's a lower benefit level than the student plan. So when the student plan is 90%, E offers them only 80%, and no out-of-network coverage for non-emergencies. Okay, so everyone following me so far? Okay, so I'm going to go to the next option. If you scroll down, and we can go back to these when you guys have questions. And we'll pass this out. So this is going to look very similar, but this is option 2. So this is the split pricing plan. So this is if you separate the undergrad and grad utilization and price them separately, but otherwise it's the same type of model. You get the same benefits, your dependents, but you'll see the percentages are different. So in this one, the undergrads get some decreases in some of the options, but the grads are higher increases.
Just one point for everybody. focus on the columns for registered undergrad and registered graduate.
Right, because the voluntary is a very small pool. So really what you care about is the registered undergrad and registered grad. That's a great point. Thank you, Will. So you're going to get that in front of you in just a second. But again, A, C, and D have the price parity even in this situation, so your dependents are priced the same. I'm happy to take questions as I go because it's a lot of information, but it's up to you.
Can you clarify whether, so for a student, 1,980, is that spouse, child all together, and then the 2+ children, that's additional?
No, so it would be 1,980 for the student. Their spouse would be another 1,980. Their first child would be another 1,980, and any children they had above that would be capped at one additional 1,980. Does that make sense? And again, on this option, the student and the dependents have the same plan benefits except for on option E, where they have the gold plan for the dependents. Okay? I'm going to go to the next slide since you guys have that in front of you and you can refer to it. So this just shows you the dependent option on E. So the gray column is what you currently have and what you would continue to have on these options and what the dependents would have, except for option E, the dependents would have the red column. So NPPO just means out of network. And you see that, so there's no out of network coverage. Give me a second to just look at that. Right, this is my last set of handouts for you. So this is a little bit of a profile of the carriers. So while we're not telling you who they are, we're telling you more information about them. So the top is how much experience they've had in student health insurance specifically. The next thing on there is their claims hours. So what we put in there is whether they had local hours or not. You'll see carrier C doesn't have West Coast hours, so it's not great for us because after 2 o'clock you can't call them. So the things that you see on there on red are things that we thought were negatives. Some of the other things we wanted to point out for you that might be relevant is this 5-year relationship, this pricing history, the bottom column on the screen. So carrier A is offering us discounts in years 2, 3, and 5. Basically what that means is they're saying we'll take a cut of our profits in years 2, 3, and 5 and we'll give you a discount on your premiums. We have the option of taking that the year 2 discount in year 1 if we wish, but given that athletic claims is still going to hit us down the line, we wanted to wait on that one and use it next year if we go with A. The other thing to note is that carrier D is saying they'll cap their administrative cost to 5%, but that's not the whole premium. So the premiums are not telling us how much that might go up or down. If you go to the next page, a little bit more on the carriers for you. So again, are they primary plans? All of them except for E are primary plans. So this is the whole, if you have your parents' insurance and SHIP, who's primary. Other than E, all of the plans are primary. And whether they cover athletics or not, all of the plans other than an E carry athletic coverage. If you look down a little bit further, another big thing for us at Tang Center for our ability to control the plan is whether they would provide Berkeley-specific monthly reports to us. And all of them other than E do provide that, which is great because it allows us to check the plan and make sure the finances are stable, etc. Some of the things that might be of interest to you is this particular column right here, which is on trans benefits. If you remember, we talked about this last semester. There are a number of benefits that are currently covered by most insurance companies, but there are a few that aren't covered that are often requested by our students, particularly top surgery for male to female students, tracheal shapes, and electrolysis. And so we asked the carriers to bid on what it would cost us to cover these things. And you'll see some differences here. Carrier A's has said that they're very open to it, but they want to discuss it with our clinical team because there aren't clinical guidelines for this, and so they have some concerns they want to work out. Carrier B has said they won't offer it. Carrier C has said, sure, but we're going to increase everyone's premiums by 2%. D has said, okay, but we're going to increase it by 0.02%. And E has said we would have to go to our board to get approval before we could say yes or no. So I wanted to point that out to all of you. And then while I said we're aiming for a 3 to 5 year contract, those contracts would have an out clause. If at any time the university was unhappy, there would be like a 2-month out clause. Except with Carrier E, we would be committed to 3 years. There's no out clause. So that's just an overview. If you scroll to the next page. So what we'd love to get your input on is generally, are you in favor with the directions the CFO has given, bringing dependents back, keeping your benefits the same? And really, I think more where Rosemary would love to get your feedback is on this tolerance between option 1 and 2, this split plan versus the cost-shifted plan. She's really in particular interested in hearing from the undergrads on what their tolerance is, given that there's a lot of undergrad students that are on financial aid or pay self-help out of their own pockets, and that she realizes housing costs are going up, other things are going up, and so she's really interested in hearing from you. And if possible, not tonight, but in future weeks, and I've talked with Will about this, she would love for the ASUC to take a formal stance via bill on, do you want 1, do you want 2? If the carriers let us negotiate, do you want something in between 1 and 2? So yeah, that's some of the stuff we'd love your comments and feedback on. And the rest of it I don't have to. The rest is on dental and vision, but I have 6 seconds left, although.
You have 7 for questions.
Sweet. Okay. Dental and vision. So what you'll see here is the carriers A through E are the same as what's on your other sheet. If you want A through E, you have to select A through E's medical plan as well. But you could select A through D, not E, A through D, and take F. So you don't have to, you could take their medical but not take their dental and vision, but you can't take their dental and vision and not take their medical. Does that make sense? E is a little bit different. E, you have to take their dental and vision if you take their medical, but we don't know what the prices are on their dental and vision. So it's still, they haven't given them to us yet, but you would have to take it as a full packet. And if you scroll down one more slide, and we can come back to these if you have questions. This is the vision, similar to dental, but you have 2 additional options. You have F and G. So you could pick the medical A through D, but pick F or G as your vision plan, which is a little more affordable. But with E, you would have to take E's vision plan, but we don't have prices for those. So yeah, just your input generally on the dental and vision. Are there some top choices in there for you? Other experiences, is it going well for you? Other issues you've had with dental and vision? We often don't hear as much about those. If you can scroll one more slide. And just a quick reminder on the university's principles and the renewal. These are what we're looking at as a university when we make this decision. So part of it is about price and benefits, but it's also about how financially stable they are, how good is their account team, how comparable is the network to what you currently have in terms of your provider options. Can they provide us accurate and timely data, etc. So I just wanted to remind everyone about this, and I think I have one more slide. And then Brittany mentioned this, but there's an open forum next week, the 11th in Anna Head, and the broker and Rosemary will be there as well. So it's a good opportunity for students to come give their feedback. With that, questions, comments?
Senator Bruins? Yeah, thank you so much for coming in. I think this is really good to see. It's nice to see all the plans laid out, as well as like all the benefits. I definitely say, like, I think I speak for a lot of people when I say that thank you for like getting dependent, and thanks to Will too for working to get dependent and continuation care coverage back. So it was really important to a lot of people. I think that's it. Thank you for also explaining kind of the changes at the state level, because I know I had a lot of questions and argued with a lot of people about why my dental coverage was not my primary. A long story, but that I think clears up a lot of things. Yeah, I don't have any. I'd like to, I think, take some time. I think
Absolutely
should on looking at these plans and discussing things. So,
Senator Rashidi?
Hi, I just had a question regarding the cost of students. For example, for a registered undergraduate student, you have $19.80 for Carrier A, for example. Is that premium and deductible cost? What does that come down to?
So this is just your premium. So that's what this is. Keep in mind, these are annual. So half of that would be what you pay per semester on your CARS bill. So that's what you pay to be enrolled in SHIP. Your deductibles, co-pays, all that stuff would stay the same. So when you go to the tank center, it's just $15 to see the doc. There's no co-pay, or there's no deductible at the tank center. Outside of the tank center, there's a $300 deductible, but then you're covered at 90% for everything. So your benefits wouldn't change. So if, do you want to scroll up a few slides to the, keep going, it's a grid, it's green and red grids. One more, there you go. So your benefits would stay what you see on the gray side. But the dollar values you're seeing are the premiums you pay. So this is annualized, but split it in half and you pay that every semester. Do you have a follow-up question? Or you follow?
Yeah, I have a follow-up. So I'm just a little confused because in the earlier slide you explained that the cost of premiums for students was $12.90 a student.
Per semester.
Per semester, okay.
Yeah, that's all of the pieces combined, whereas this is just the medical portion.
Senator Morrow?
Yeah, so there's a few questions I've asked you in committee that I know, but I'd like to just have clarified for everybody else. So pretty quick questions. The first one, since this slide is up, what services get used the most by undergrads in their career?
That's a good question. It varies quite a bit. Off the top of my head, I would probably tell you mental health is a really big one, outpatient mental health. That being said, we also do have a significant population that uses inpatient mental health or eating disorders for inpatient stuff. Regular doctor's visits, a big one. ER visits is not necessarily a huge part of it, but obviously it's an unpredictable one, and so it's a piece that we like to keep affordable for everybody so that you're not paying a big copay when you go to the ER. I can get you more information about that too in the future if that's something you want to see specifically on undergrads.
Okay, the next question that I've asked you in committee that I want to just have clarified. So there's one plan that doesn't offer intercollegiate athletics at this point. What would happen if the insurance ruling changed within the contract period?
Yeah, so the way it works is each of these companies, regardless of who they are, file their policy every year with the Department of Insurance, which is a statewide department, and they evaluate each plan individually, and they come back and they say, you're good to go, or you have to change these things to meet the law. And so what you're seeing is that they've come back and told all these companies you have to add athletics except for Carrier E. Now Carrier E could get a notice down the line that says you have to do this, and it would probably be effective immediately if they got that notice. The other piece we talked a little about in committee is that athletics piece is a little bit of an unknown. Our broker is doing some analysis on this, and he doesn't think it would be a huge impact actually relative to our total claims. But if there was a big impact on the claims, then there would be conversations between athletics and the CFO about whether there needs to be some kind of support from athletics to help offset some of that. So, but that would be a conversation next year, and it's just hypothetical at this point.
And then just the last thing, I was wondering if you could go elaborate a little bit more off of how the 5-year relationship, like an evergreen relationship, what advantages or disadvantages certain things provide in terms of length of contract.
Yeah, so the idea of having a 3 to 5 year contract, an evergreen contract, is the carrier is more motivated to work with you in a number of ways. One, in to keep your premiums low. They're going to work with you to keep your claims at an affordable level and to make sure that the trends aren't, like if all of a sudden you have a spike in ER visits, they're going to work with you to figure out what's going on and to address the problem because it's in their financial interest to help control those costs too. The other is they're more likely to get you the network that you want. They're more likely to go out and negotiate with the doctors you want because you're going to be with them for 3 to 5 years. So there's a number of benefits. And you'll see that some of them, for example, are offering you a discount as a share of their profits. They'll take less profit to keep your business for multiple years. They're more likely to negotiate with you on transgender benefits if they think that's what you want to stay with them longer. So you get a little more, or a lot more clout and a little more negotiating power when you're in a 3 to 5 year relationship. And it's more predictable for them, so you're not going to see as much fluctuation as if compared to if you went out to bid every year.
Senator Dean?
I just want to thank you all for the work that you do. I was in the hospital for 2 weeks, and if it wasn't for my SHIP insurance, I would have probably had a lot of thousands of dollars in debt, basically. So thank you for the work that you all do.
I hope you're okay.
Yeah, I'm definitely okay. I also wanted to ask a question about the future plan. The graduate students increase, whereas for undergrad it's fine. My question is, how are the graduate students, responding to this? Do they know about it, or is the forum a space where they're going to be able to talk about that?
So the Insurance Advisory Committee has seen this. The Student Health Advisory Committee, SHAC, saw this earlier tonight, which is composed of both undergrads and grads, but the GA hasn't seen this yet in full. They're going to see it tomorrow night. And the request from Rosemary is also to them. She would love a formal vote from the GA on what their tolerance is for both scenarios as well. And so while we've had some input from SHAC and SHIAC, we haven't gotten an official anything from the GA yet. They'll see this tomorrow.
Senator Trent?
Hello, thank you for coming. There are quite a few low-income students on campus who have Medi-Cal, and although they've been able to waive SHIP with Medi-Cal, some of them more recently have been audited without any email notification at all, and I'm wondering, I guess it's a little off topic why that's happening now, and if that's going to be a problem in the future for a lot of students with Medi-Cal with
so
possible time.
I'm happy to answer that. So the Medi-Cal audits, so I'm out of time.
If there are no objections, I'm going to take that time by 10 minutes. Go ahead.
Thanks. So what happens is, and I'm working on updating our website to be a little more accurate, but HMO type plans, which includes Medi-Cal, get audited. And the reason for that is UCOP's waiver criteria say that you have to have a primary care doctor within a certain mileage radius of campus. For Berkeley, that's 50-mile radius. There's other campuses that are 30 and some that are 100. And so the HMO type plans are the ones that have restrictions on where you can see doctors. And so that's why they get audited, so we can confirm if people have a doctor within 50 miles. All of the students who got audited got an email. Now, I know some people have different emails they've registered or didn't register. Part of the problem is that OR now the Office of Registrar lets you put whatever email you want in. And so if you change your email or you don't notify them, then you might not get that email. I'm working on doing multiple email notifications next year because I know some people had issues with that. And we do give students more than 2 months notice. So we tell them in November, you have until January 14th to turn in your audit information. And we don't switch them back on the plan for the Medi-Cal recipients in the fall if we audit them. We wait until the spring. So we give them a 2-month heads up in case they need to figure anything out with the Medi-Cal office. But basically you do need to have Medi-Cal in a county that is within 50 miles of here. And so that's why we give them the heads up. Like if they're LA County, we tell them, contact your social worker now and try to transfer it to Alameda County. But it is part of the OP mandated waiver criteria, and so it's a little bit less in Berkeley's control.
Any other questions? Senator Prasad?
Thank you. So I was wondering if I could get a little bit more understanding on their rate adjustments per year. There was some mention about that in the 5-year pricing, 5-year relationships, but for each carrier, how much can they increase their fees by on a yearly basis?
So in part, there's a couple parts to this answer. There's no rate guarantee, and part of that is at the advice of our broker, because rate guarantees lead to artificial caps. It's the problem we had with our Aetna plan last year. There was an artificial cap 2 years ago, and so they didn't increase our rates as much as they should have to adjust for the claims increase. And then the next year we got a really big increase to make up for the previous year. And so the rate caps actually don't necessarily help us. So that's one piece. The other thing, you'll see there's quite a bit of fluctuation between all these prices between the carriers, and it's quite normal. There's probably about 10 different factors of why. I'll give you some of the most common. One is they pay taxes and fees to the state, and those taxes and fees are calculated, state and federal, they're calculated differently for every company. It's based on the size of the company, the number of clients they have, et cetera. And so those taxes and fees get built into your premiums. That's one. two is they all have different profit margins, and so they build that into your premiums too. They all have different medical inflation rates, which is on that grid of that I gave you guys of the carrier profiles. You'll see some of them have low medical inflation, some of them are average, some of them are high, and so they build that into your claims costs as well. Then each of them has their own proprietary actuarial calculations and risk calculations, and so they factor all of that in when they make these judgments.
Is that a follow-up?
So as a quick follow-up, how do you make sure the rates and the quotes you see here are going to be honored in the future and ensure that this is not just like a pretty bit on the side?
Yeah, so I mean, it's the quotes are only for this year, right? So next year, no matter what company you go with, they're going to look at your claims again for the next year, and then they're going to give you a new price for next year. Your ideal is that it stays pretty much the same. It's rare that it decreases, but it could happen, right? What you want to avoid is that major increase, and so some of it is we keep tabs on a monthly basis. That's why that monthly reporting is really essential for us to see what trends are and to course correct if we see we're veering off course. The other is our broker plays a really big role, and so one of the things on that grid you have is will they give our broker direct access to the data, because the broker acts as a check on them as well and runs their own actuarial calculations and tells them, yes, your numbers make sense, no, these numbers are really high, and like goes and renegotiates with them. And some of the bids you're seeing here have been negotiated by the broker, and so the broker plays that role as well. It's a little bit of, and then you look at trends nationally as well as in student health. What's the medical inflation trend across the board? Right now in student health, it's about 9%. So we look at your peers.
Senator Adrianson?
Hi, thanks again for coming in so late on Wednesday. My question was about sort of how the difference between how grad students and undergrads are paying for their insurance, so like who's on financial aid and things like that.
That is a great question, and I'm surprised we didn't get that earlier. So in part, we're trying to get concrete data on that from GradDiv because we don't have that at UHS. It's really more on the OR and CAR side of the house. What we've been told, and the indications we've gotten is in terms of grad students, the grad students that are on GSI and GSR agreements with their departments, they get fee remission if they work usually 25% time or more. So their ship fees get paid. Now, that varies quite a bit by department and how many GSI, GSR spots there are. Often master's students and professional degrees don't have GSIs or GSRs or have less of them. So we're trying to get concrete numbers. Don't quote me on this. It's somewhere about 60 to 70% of grad students have their fees covered, but we're trying to get that verified by GradDiv. And then on the undergrad side, again, we don't have great numbers. We're trying to get that from financial aid, but we know the undergrad population, about 40% of them are, in the low income category. They're from families that make $50,000 or less, and so, that's just, they're more likely to be low income on the undergrad side, but I don't have concrete numbers for you, and it's something we're working really hard to get from our campus partners if we can.
Thanks.
Senator Rashidi?
I have a question regarding compensation for UHS when students go in for services.
Mm-hmm.
Are all 5 plans having the same compensation to UHS, or do their rates differ?
No, all of them are the same. It's one of the categories on that grid. I think it's, what's on the next page? What you'll see is the category that says carrier will reimburse all UHS claims at billed rates. So they'll pay it at whatever we bill it at. What we do when we set our rates is we look at both the insurance company's customary rates for that service as well as what the Medi-Cal rates are, Medicare rates are in our area, and we try to stay closer to the Medicare, Medi-Cal rates to be more affordable for the students.
Any other questions? Thank you, Bahar.
Thank you. And if there's any further questions, I'm happy to take them offline, or you can send them to Will. We meet every Friday. Thank you for moving us early.
So next up, we have AC Transit, Michael, for 15 minutes and 10 minutes for questions.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Michael Ushelman. You're welcome for the building, I guess. I'm the manager of service planning for AC Transit, the friendly local transportation provider. Before we get into the presentation itself, can I get a quick raise of hands of who uses AC Transit on a regular basis? All right. Who uses AC Transit for train-based service to get across the bay to San Francisco? And does anyone use line J? Does anyone use line F? Locally, and then line F for Transbay? Yes? Okay. Great. So some of this is going to be relevant to you. So as some of you may have known, we can move to the next slide. As some of you may have known, Alameda County voters about a year and a half, 2 years ago passed Measure BB, which provided us with a lot of money for transportation improvements. And we'll get into some of the specifics of that in a minute. But as part of that, we decided to invest a great deal of money within the service. And so we reevaluated all of our local service. So all the service that stays exclusively within Alameda County. And for some reason, because F kind of acts as a little bit of a local route, it kind of got wrapped up into that. And we probably shouldn't have done that. So we were planning to do a whole separate set of a comprehensive analysis for our Transbay service with the opening of the new Transbay Transit Center in 2017. So the reason we're talking about this right now is we made a mistake and accidentally brought a political firestorm into a situation that it didn't need to be in. But what we've determined, what we'll discuss today is some of the existing conditions on the routes. I'll kind of skip over some of the J stuff. It doesn't seem like it's as important. We'll focus on the F. We'll talk about what our initial proposal was. It received a lot of heat, and I can tell you right now, I don't think it was the greatest proposal. We'll talk about some of the alternatives that we've come up with since, and then we're going to talk to you a little bit about, or I'm going to talk to you a little bit about some of the next steps and how we want to build this relationship moving forward, and how we can do better planning together with UC Berkeley as well as just the community in general. So can you go to the next one? So AC Transit, when we initially presented changes to the F and the J, received more than 700 comments about pretty much all negative about the recommendations that we made. And to be perfectly honest, a lot of those comments were spot on. We've since been working with Oakland, Emeryville, as well as UC Berkeley here today to figure out how we can adjust what our initial proposal was and make it better. We've developed some new proposals. I can't guarantee you they're any better. And what we're trying to do is seek some input and figure out if we can actually get really good input on how people use service. And we're going to I'll talk to you a little bit about some of the concrete things we're doing to get better information so we can make better decisions. So next slide. So for those of you that did vote in Alameda County in 2014 for Measure BB, 85% of the money from that measure is going towards increasing service and improving operations for AC Transit. So it's about $24 million a year, which amounts to about a 14% increase in service for AC Transit. This will bring us back to about 2009 levels. As you may know, a lot of transit agencies had to cut service significantly in the wake of the financial crisis following the drop in economic output. So essentially, we're back to where we were 6-7 years ago. This is an increase over service over last year, but it's not an increase in service over where we were in 2009. And I guarantee you demands for transportation and mobility services have increased significantly since 2009. And they've increased in new communities that we didn't see before. There are lots of new communities where people are living that a lot of people didn't live before 2009, or were just budding communities at that time. So next slide, please. So this is what line F looks like. This is the ridership profile. And the exact numbers aren't necessarily as important. These are the number of riders on a daily basis. But what we're really looking at is kind of the proportion of where these riders come from. And it looks like you guys are yellow. Campus Loop is yellow. This makes up a significant portion of our ridership on a daily basis. We have some of the other communities that the F goes through. You guys have specific questions about that. I can work through those in the questions after the presentation. The next slide is line J. Our main issue with line J, just to be really brief, was that it travels from North Berkeley down into North Emeryville and gets on the freeway. And we've noticed that folks in North Emeryville were getting left behind by the bus because there were so many people that were already on the J that essentially the buses were full by the time they got to to stop before the freeway, and so people weren't able to take the J on a reliable basis. So what we were trying to do was figure out a solution with the F, so that we could move F, which has a lot more service availability, up over to where the J was to capture some of those riders. And in hindsight, it was using the wrong tool to solve the problem. So we'll talk a little bit about on what the initial proposal was on the next slide. So what essentially we wanted to do with trans-based service is really try to provide more direct service. Historically, what trans-based service looks like is really long, snaky local routes that eventually at some point maybe get on the freeway and go over to San Francisco. And what we were trying to do with this is kind of create a new service model where we were being more direct and getting on the freeway quicker, and so the ride was shorter, but people might have to walk further or might have to transfer from another bus, which is inconvenience. And there's a lot of these trans-based services are really legacies. They've been around. People will tell you, that's the line that my grandfather rode 90 years ago. Why are you changing it? And a lot of people really have strong relationships with these routes that operate through the communities. So in addition to trans-based service, we can go to the next slide. We're also doing some significant improvements to service regardless of what we do with the F and the J. So, and we'll go into the individual proposals here next, so if we can go to the next one. We've had to rename some routes temporarily. So we have the L19, which operates through the Lakeshore Hollis corridor. We're increasing service on that area. This is mostly for Emeryville to 20-minute frequency all day. Right now it's 20 minutes during commute hours and 30 minutes not commute hours. We go to the next one. This one's a little bit more relevant to this group. Along the Dwight corridor, we have the proposal called the L22, and you can get more information on these on the AC Transit website. We're increasing service to 20 minutes. Right now it's 30 minutes all day and only 40 on weekends. So now it's going to be 20 minutes all day, weekdays and weekends, which we think is something that actually people can rely on for their daily mobility. The next slide is line 52. This is particularly relevant. This is actually increasing frequency to 15 minutes in the peak and 20 minutes during the entire rest of the day. And this is the closest approximation to a campus loop outside of the F that AC Transit operates. The next route is line 57, which operates along MacArthur. Going to be boosting service to 15 minutes. And finally, as far as the other high-frequency routes in the area, line 88, which operates along Market Street, is going to be boosted up to 15 minutes during the peak, as well as enhanced night and weekend service. So this is part of that 14% increase in service that we're talking about. This is something we're doing Alameda County-wide, and we're rolling the first improvements out in June 2016, then following it up with some bigger improvements in December 2016. Then we're finishing it all off in June 2017. So next slide and one more. So this map here is a little bit of what our initial proposal looked like. As you can see, the F is the one with the loop around the campus. That is we're essentially taking it off Market Street and off 40th Street, which are areas that historically have had service along the F, and we're making it essentially come through Emeryville in a more direct way and get onto the freeway. And actually, no, this is what the F currently looks like. Sorry, but my brain petered out. So this is what the F currently looks like. The only change is we're doing a loop up to 65th and Hollis to grab those J riders that are being left behind. Then we're getting on the freeway. So this is already a frustrating long F ride. We're taking you down, you get to see the freeway, then we do a loop, and then get you on the freeway. So you like get really close, and then you have to wait even longer to get on the freeway. And the J would remain unchanged in this one. So the next proposal is alternative 2. This is what we initially proposed. So you can see the F used to come along here and come down here. And now we're proposing it pick up the folks in North Emeryville. And whereas the J comes down Market and 40th and gets on. And the big thing here is the communities along Market and 40th and North Oakland and in Emeryville, they lost their all-day F service. So F, no longer do they have trans-based service during the middle of the day or on weekends, and that's a big trade-off. And the next proposal. This is something that one of our board members proposed as an alternative, and this is to really double down on getting the F onto the freeway as soon as possible. And this is essentially coming down out of Berkeley, also eliminating the loop around UC Berkeley. But keep in mind, we're boosting service on other routes around UC Berkeley. So coming down, getting immediately onto Powell, doing a quick loop up to 65th and Hollis, then coming down and onto the freeway. So this is how quickly can we get a bus from Berkeley onto the freeway and into San Francisco, with the J switching over to provide Transbay service along Market and 48. And this requires the most transfers from local buses and the most walking for all our customers. So this is really how efficient can we make a network and force everyone to transfer and walk. Is kind of how this boils down. And the final alternative is a little bit of a wild card. This is keep everything the same, but the F gets split into 2 routes. So the F now is one local route from Berkeley, from UC Berkeley, all the way down just until it gets to the freeway, then it stops. And we have a separate route that goes over the bridge. So you have a local F and a Transbay F, and they're 2 totally separate, distinct entities. That allows us to manage the F better. So instead of one long line that's subject to a lot of different opportunities for delay, it's 2 lines that we can manage a lot more effectively. And it requires transfers, so we need to first start running our buses on time, and then second, really maximize the transfer, the transfer opportunity there. So next slide. These are some proposed costs, just as a point of comparison, what the different trade-offs are with respect to all these. One request, if you look at this proposal 2B, someone, when we were dealing with Oakland folks, they essentially requested, we're fine if you take the F off Market and Hollis and put the J down there, as long as you run the J all day. So we cost out what it would cost to do that. There's also in play a 5th alternative, which is keep things exactly how they are, and then just start a new route. So create a new route from Emeryville and run that across the bridge. And that's definitely the most expensive of all these options. And we're trying to play revenue neutral with this thing. So as you're kind of starting to see, if we can go to the next slide, we have a little bit of a difficult choice here. I don't think any of these alternatives are good. When we proposed them, the idea was get a lot of input and see if something new comes out. And the new stuff that's coming out is how can you spend more money? And we want to spend a lot of money if we have it. So what we think is the best opportunity is when we open up the new Transbay terminal in San Francisco, really use that to take a comprehensive look at all of our Transbay service and see if there's other ways that we can adjust Transbay service, and maybe by that point we'll have more money, and maybe there's an opportunity to do something really cool with these alternatives. So initially when we set up these meetings, the goal was to have a really vibrant discussion about the different alternatives. I'm starting to think that a lot of the alternatives are kind of dead in the water, and that the most likely alternatives that we're going to keep service the way it is and kind of slog through. So what I kind of want to take this meeting as an opportunity to do is introduce myself, let you know that we're working on a lot of stuff in your area, make sure that we let you know that there's some big improvements to service that are coming to the area, into Berkeley, North Oakland, Emeryville, as well as the rest of the county, and in parts of Contra Costa County. And also let you guys know that we're here literally anytime. If you want us to come by, we'll talk about anything. If you have issues, if you want to set up meetings, we really want to create and then leverage a relationship with the ASUC so that we can create more of a dialogue and have regular discussions, so we're not surprising you guys all the time with crazy service ideas. So with that, if you do have questions or comments, this says February 5th. I'm going to extend that out a few weeks. It's no big deal. We have phone number as well as email address here. So with that, I'll take any questions.
Senator Bruns.
So sorry, that was a lot to take in, all the different alternatives.
Yeah.
I know you just said they were all pretty much dead in the water, but I'm curious, and I guess just from a student perspective, not that I go to Emeryville a ton, like through bus. Yeah. But I can see a lot of students doing that, especially at jobs or whatever. I do like the idea. I'm more like partial to a campus loop for the F and splitting them up rather than having just a small little circle over by like Berkeley Square, like down to Berkeley. I think that would be probably just student-wise a lot friendlier.
Oh, yeah, sure.
I don't know like money-wise how it works out, but just a fun thought.
Yeah, and we've heard that quite a bit. So that campus loop definitely has value, and our question is, does it have value on the F, or does it just have value on its own? So, and that's a question we don't have answers yet for. So what we're doing right now is we're actually out surveying on the F. If you're on the F, you might get accosted by one of my planners. We're trying to figure out where people are starting and ending their trips. That's data we don't have easy access to. So we're going out and gathering that data right now.
Senator Vicente?
Yeah, so thanks for coming. I just want to note that, so like you did that a lot of students have that the buses are already packed.
Yeah.
And I was hearing this summer and y'all had like this like test run for like these like
the double deckers. Yeah.
So I was just wondering like what happened to those and if y'all are planning on bringing them back.
So I think we have, I don't know if we've ordered them yet, but they're in our capital plan. So those we're going to be operating double-decker buses. One of the interesting things is double-decker buses can only be operated on streets that can accommodate a really big vehicle. So our routes, we either have to be very specific about, like very careful about what routes we operate them on, or we have to change routes to accommodate them. So yeah, it's not necessarily a future technology. I've seen other transit agencies do it for a long time. We've been a little slow on the uptake. I think it's a great way to carry a lot more people across the bridge, and right now BART's at capacity anyway, so we got to figure out a new solution.
Senator Marr?
Quick question following up on the campus loop thing.
Yeah.
If you were to go with the proposal that doesn't do the loop,
yeah,
would that mean you would be changing the service of like the 52 to make it a full loop all the time instead of just being like 3/4 loop?
That's not the plan right now. It would be a loss in service around the loop, if we went with that.
Senator Adrianson?
Hi, thanks for coming. First of all, I love AC Transit. I have an AC Transit hat. I got to drive the 51B once. So
I don't even have the hat.
My question is, maybe this is a really simple question, but why does the 52 and the F both take the same orientation around the campus loop? Because a lot of students have, like, I think a lot of senators have ran on platforms of trying to get a bus that goes from this side of campus up to north side.
Yeah.
I was just wondering why don't you switch it the other way?
So my answer to that is probably the answer that I hate hearing the most, and that's because it's always been done that way. So I just imagine it's a legacy that has just been there. It might have to do with turning motions. I joined AC Transit in November, so I'm relatively new to the decision making. I assume they've been in place for quite a while, and if you guys have been running on it for a while, maybe this is an opportunity for us to come in and discuss this and see if there's a better way to operate our buses instead of making people go all the way around most of the loop in order to get to a place that would be easier if it just went the opposite way, right?
Senator Tran?
I kind of more in favor of not taking out the service for the folks who live in North Oakland, only because I don't know how feasible it is for you to set up meetings and get their concerns, but I think totally taking that out might hurt that community a lot versus UC Berkeley. I'm not saying everyone has a means, but we definitely have other options to get to that setup.
Yeah, we did a meeting in Oakland a few weeks ago on Market. So, and we had 2 council members from Oakland come and they were vocal. So yeah, that's why we've been really thinking hard about this issue.
Senator Cho?
I know for a lot of students that take the AC Transit into SF for jobs, for research or whatever, the fact that the F goes all the way, like one straight shot through, is really important, just so that they can like sit down, fall asleep, take a nap, whatever, and just end up in SF. Just having that break, not only is like transfers tricky, but that can end up pretty disastrous, I feel like, for students who get stranded somewhere or who need to be somewhere on time.
Yeah.
Don't necessarily get there, so.
The 1-seat ride is critical. Yeah.
Senator Prasad?
Yeah, thanks for coming in today. My question is, what's the current time end-to-end difference between the 2 proposals for the F line if you're between the alternatives?
So, there's a couple different elements of what we're trying to do. I think if you shave off the campus loop, it saves 15 to 20 minutes. It's a pretty substantial amount of savings. And then the other ones, depending on which specific part we're shaving or adjusting, it's like 2, 3 to 5 minutes here and there. and sometimes that makes a really big difference. Sometimes it doesn't. So it just depends on the specific ones. And sometimes it's about saving travel time, and sometimes it's about making the bus fit in a cycle so that we can operate it efficiently. So sometimes we're selfish about how we want to, design services.
Senator Salinas?
I'm assuming you're getting input from your bus drivers, correct?
Oh yeah,
okay.
Absolutely.
And the reason why I ask is because if buses are running more frequently, it's important to have bus drivers going at least a break.
Yeah.
To have lunch or anything. That's it.
Oh yeah, and there are laws, that are that are very stringent, and union protections are pretty stringent at AC Transit as well. So, and also, bus drivers are the core of our voice, and also we're a little short of them right now. So we're really trying to hire as many bus drivers as possible. Tell all your friends, it's a great job. I enjoy it. A lot of people in my organization started there and have moved with it.
Senator Yave?
Hi, so can you speak to how the different alternative options would affect the class pass agreement or the cost of the class pass agreement, if any, in the future?
There are no adjustments related to the class pass for these. That's a whole separate thing where we work with UC Berkeley, regardless of what service levels.
Any other questions? Thank you, Michael.
Thank you.
All right, so moving on to executive officer reports. First up, we have President Jen.
Hello, everyone. So for updates today was the first meeting for the Chancellor's Advisory Board on Campus Climate and Inclusion. It went really well. We just had basically, I guess this has happened before every year, but nothing ever got done. So with our new Vice Chancellor, she's really committed to actually getting things done, meeting more than once a semester. So this was our first of the semester, and we're meeting again in April. And what we covered was mostly just talking about where we are with a lot of our initiatives. So this past semester, 800 GSIs were trained in a mandatory training that's separate from their pedagogy course that they have to take before they become GSIs. And again, any new GSI this semester was trained, so it's about 250 were trained again. And so this is going to be a new mandate that happens every semester. I don't know if GSIs will have to do it again every year, but new GSIs will have to do it. So they're going to find out that. As far as that, if you have any questions, do let me know, or anything, topics that you would like to be discussed in the advisory board. Feel free to shoot it my way. We'll have the next meeting April 4th. I had a meeting with Tom, who is my co-chair for the ED search. And we met today about logistics, just to talk about how we're going to set up our meetings. Because I got more information. I don't know how much information Peter shared with you all when he came and did his presentation last week. But we're going to review as a committee 10 applicants, and they're going to be the top 10 applicants that are going to be pre-vetted basically by Peter before given to us. And as a committee, then we're going to come together and basically decide what and how we're going to evaluate the candidates. We haven't figured out exactly what that's going to look like. We're not going to do a ranking system. If anything, we're going to do pros and cons, and we're going to then rank what are more important. So years of experience, is it going to be how active they've been on their prospective campuses, either working with students, et cetera, et cetera. So we're trying to figure that out and narrow it down, and then we're going to have three finalists come to campus and do a presentation and basically speak to everyone. They'll be here for about a day and a half. And we will be covering their flight ticket here, but if they bring anyone extra that's not on our bill, let's see, what else? So we'll have regular meetings, and I'll have updates on that. If you want to listen to what Joseph will be saying as far as what he's looking for in the ED, he will be doing a quick 5-minute charge at the student union board meeting, which will be February 25th at 10 a.m. And we're moving along with our campus climate speaker series, and so we have a list of people that we're considering bringing, and this time it's going to be more so a debate type thing, and not necessarily just a speaker. So they're going to be, as of now, we have about 2 people. If not, we're hoping to get 3 people to come out and kind of have like this dialogue that will be, hopefully it'll be moderated by Naila. So I'll have more information on that once we get more information. All of the photos, if you all partook in the Make Your Moment campaign, the photos will be put on campus. They'll replacing the $3.1 billion that are like, oh, campus, take your moment, donate money. All of those will be taken down, and it'll be replaced with Make Your Moment photos by hopefully the end of February, if not the first week of March. Yeah, I feel like that's it.
Questions? Senator Morrow.
Any updates on if the chancellor's heard of
John Wilton?
Yeah.
No. I have a meeting with him on February 9th, so I'll bring it up in person so you can't run away from it, and I'll let you know.
Any other questions? Thank you, you're done. Next up, we have student advocate Leah Robb.
Hello, we're at 28 open cases and 34 total this semester, so academic right now has 13, conduct has 5, financial has 6, and grievance has 4. We just finished our recruitment period for the spring semester. We're starting to review those. We should have new folks in the office on Monday. Pretty big policy projects happening right now. Our academic and financial division are working with the student information services. They're going to be here next week, so it's going to be really great for y'all to actually hear from them directly and hear about the big changes coming around, because they are very big changes, and some of us seniors aren't going to get to enjoy them, but that's okay. Academic is also working on the incomplete grade change policy. So right now when students take classes as incomplete and then eventually get a grade for them, there's not really a guideline about how quickly that grade needs to change. I see issues nodding. So some students wait for a sort of ridiculously long time, which affects what their transcript looks like and can affect internships and jobs in grad school. So we're trying to work with the registrar to get that to be like a 3 to 5 month period so that students are getting that changed quickly. The academic division is also working on improving the way LNS sees international students fulfilling their non-breath related requirements, because while they take classes that really do fulfill those requirements, like for us the SAT2 might fulfill that, or an AP class, for them the classes they're taking abroad, even though they would fulfill it, are not being counted. So we're trying to work on that so that students aren't spending a lot of money and taking classes they don't need. The grievance division is working both within Greek life and within the co-op community to work on policy education, working with Senator Sheena Paul sorry, I like last name, Sheena, and I didn't see you. We're working with Sheena, we're working with some of the VPs within the IFC and the Greek system. We need to work with Pam Plenick too. I just saw you, so I'm going to talk to you about that. We're also working on our disability ordinance weeks, so I'm very excited about that. I think that's happening in March, early March. Our financial aid division is going to continue working with SHIP with some focus groups, and also I think I might have mentioned to you all the Fidelity Project last semester, but that's that students who work on campus often aren't told that a chunk of their money is being saved for their retirement savings, which is all good and fun, except a lot of students finish their jobs and then move somewhere else, and so that check never comes back to them. So for example, I worked one summer at Berkeley and I got a check a year later for like $90, and I was like, oh, that's nice, but what is this? And so what that is that it's retirement savings. So we're trying to work with them to better educate students, like, let us know your address change, like know that this is happening, because we can't really change the actual fact that it's happening. Just a couple of things to look out for next week. Like I said, SIS will be here, Student Information Services. Also, I will be here with David Surratt and Hallie Hunt, who's the Director of Student Conduct, talking finally about the new adjudication model and what the changes mean. But also happy to talk offline. It is available online for y'all to read, so if you have questions, just come talk to me because it's a little bit different than what we had before.
Questions? Senator Yappe.
Hi, so for the check that you mentioned for the retirement funds, so when are those usually dispersed, like timeline-wise?
I'm not 100% sure, but it's when you're finished working. So like I worked over the summer, so it was like, I don't know, 8 or 9 weeks. And then within some time after that, I think it's like after the tax period, after that, it came back to me. So it came back to me like several months later. But usually it happens, so for most students who are working, for example, for 4 years in their job or working until they graduate, by the time that comes to them, they've already moved somewhere else. So that's sort of the biggest issue we're seeing right now.
So is it from a specific bank or?
It's Fidelity, okay. So they're the ones who are kind of running this. And I could refer you to talk to Anthony, who's got a little bit further details on this project. But yeah, if you've ever worked on campus, like you've got a check from them that says, oh, here you go, here's all your retirement savings. It's like, it's fairly small amount, so like, it's like you don't even notice it sometimes when you get your paycheck each month, but like when it comes back, you're like, oh, that's, money that I did not get.
Senator Paul.
I guess a little public shout out for your article in Daily Call. It was really great and informative. If you all haven't read it, you should read it. And then thanks for all the work you do and congrats on getting into law school.
Oh, thanks. Thanks very much.
Senator Morrow.
Is there any way that the check could be done over direct deposit, or is there like a campus policy against that?
That I'm not sure about. I know that we had wanted some sort of like more policy related change originally, but we're kind of informed like this is how it's done. And what we actually can do work on is making sure that students are informed that it's happening. I think that's the smartest approach for us to take, because some of this is a little bit above, I think, some of the policy changes we can do. But if y'all have questions about that, let me know and I'll put you in touch with Anthony.
Any other questions? Thank you, Leah. Next up, we have Academic Affairs Vice President, Melissa.
Hi, everyone. So updates from this week. I'll be joining the CACSF Accountability Group. So basically, whenever someone applies for a CACSF grant and they get it, they just receive the money and there's not really any tracking after that about how they use the money. Like, for example, when I got the Rest Zone grant, nobody really tracked it and saw how I used it. So this group will be working with Bene to see how we can better track that. I'm working on the extended laptop rental project MOU right now with Matthew, Lewis, and Alec. We're also working on a phone charger program with Bechtel, and we'll be expanding Rest Zones to Tolman Tech Lounge and the Haas Library. Another idea that my office came up with is Valentine's Day grams. So basically, if you sign something like a pledge for consent, you'll get a little Valentine's Day gram on Sproul. We're not entirely sure how we're going to do this yet, like what grams to give and what they'll say, but we're working with the Sexual Assault Commission and hopefully Sheena on this. The grants and scholarships launched this Monday. I had a meeting with SACU this past Tuesday, and we were discussing the FPF and Global Edge program. Basically, Global Edge is this program that spring admits get to choose to go to, and they study abroad. They studied abroad in London this past year, but they're opening it up to Madrid and Rome. There's going to be like a complete change to that, so that there's not technically going to be any spring admits. Everyone's going to be a fall admit or a wait list. So that'll be an interesting thing. I'm wondering to see how that'll work out. Once they're admitted as a fall freshman, then they'll get the choice to either go to FPF, regular campus, Global Edge, FPS Spear Street, which is the new program that they're coming up with, where you'll be able to like intern in the city and then commute from Berkeley, really interesting. So I'll give you more updates on that as it goes along. I was a spring admin myself, so I'm a little sad to see the FBF spring admin program go, but it sort of makes sense in that waitlist students would get to jump ahead of spring admits when they're admitted into Berkeley. If that makes sense to everyone. Like, if you're a spring admit, you go to FBF, or you're a spring admit, but then waitlist students aren't necessarily even going to Berkeley yet, but if they get into Berkeley, they jump ahead of the spring admits into the school. So that's it for SACU. We're releasing our BSF scholarship coordinator applications on February 20th, and they'll be open until March 5th. If any of y'all aren't going to be a part of the ASUC next year, y'all should apply. You get a $1,500 scholarship stipend, and the work isn't that bad. So those are my announcements for today. Any questions?
Senator Vicente?
In terms of the Global Edge program, we have like a flyer or like a full like what does that mean?
Yeah, I don't have it on me, but I can send you the website, / you can just Google it, Global Edge Berkeley, and there's information online. Yeah.
Regarding the Global Edge program, students who qualify for financial aid, is that covered when they go to Global Edge?
They try to maximize as much financial aid as possible for the Global Edge program. That's not always covered.
Any other questions? Thank you, Melissa. Thank you. Next up, we have External Affairs Vice President, Chief of Staff, Zara.
Hi, everyone. Okay, so a couple updates. This weekend is the UCSA board meeting at UC Santa Barbara. Mariana, Yasmin, Kevin, they'll all be going down from Super Bowl weekend. It's exciting. There's like an Islamophobia bill that's going through UCSA board right now. It's going through its like GovCom, and Maria's supporting it, and it's really exciting because it's going to be one of the first of its kind. Woo! There is, we're trying to get scholarships for Syrian students to come visit us at UC Berkeley. That's kind of in the beginning stages. It's really cool. There's Legend Fairs is doing lobby visits this week locally, and they're planning state and national visits soon, so we'll be hearing about that. So last thing, for GLA, there were senators at the council meeting who didn't read the bill, and a senator's Greek Affairs director spoke on outdated material and was quoted with title in the press, which makes not only ASUC, but our office, and of course that senator look very bad in front of city council. So just a gentle reminder to senators, please read the bill before you come to council, because if you're quoted in the press reading outdated material, it's not good for anyone. And that's pretty much it.
Questions?
Where we have more.
Well, one last point about the state visit. We're actually, the next one's February 9th. So I think we have most of our spots filled out, but if you still want to go and fill your lobby requirements, you can go. Maybe. Not
There's no more lobby requirement.
Oh. Still go.
Questions? Senator Dean.
Hi Zara, I was wondering if you could forward me the UCSA bill on the Homophobia.
Yeah, of course. Any other questions? Thank you. All right, I don't have too many announcements. So the ASUC, or the annual budget and space allocations process, is beginning for this semester. So basically, the EVP office will be hosting 4 workshops coming up: the 22nd, the 26th, the 29th, and March 3rd. I will remind you all of those dates as we keep going, but those are 4 workshops for any student groups to go through the ASUC process and figure out, how they should be filling out their forms, and what they need to do to ensure, or at least try to get space and make sure they're going through the budget process as well as they can. We've been meeting with different organizations and groups, so Joe and I have met with the Public Service Center today regarding their space usage and how it's been going on the 2nd floor. I would definitely say the 2nd floor is using their space the best out of this entire building, so snaps to ESC. NOD, been meeting with them. They're also having some space problems just because they don't actually have a studio to work with. So when they moved from Hearst to Eshelman, previous planners in the last 5 years kind of like forgot about NOD. And so they didn't get a studio compared to the other ASUC programs. So we're working to figure out what we can do with that. I had a life safety meeting, and we didn't really do anything in the meeting. we just talked about the 3 programs, which again, the life safety fee money is being used for the Anahead renovation, construction, MLK basement, and then the lighting, safety lighting for campus. That is it. Any questions? Senator Vicente?
So the spring budgeting dates is ICOM or EVP gonna send out like a flyer or just like a list of dates so I can forward to something?
For the workshops?
Yeah.
I believe they're making some sort of flyers. I just got the dates yesterday,
Oh,
so
okay.
I imagine the flyer will come out sometime next week, and we'll probably do the whole Facebook events and those. Any other questions? Moving on to ASUC official reports. First up, we have elections council chair. Yuri. Nope. Next up, we have attorney general. Next up, we have chief technology officer over here.
Hello, I have a demo for you folks, so I'm going to give you a demo. Hey, cool. So, Berkeley Mobile is about to launch version 5 in the next couple of days. There are a couple of unforeseen bugs we've run into that we are solving now. So like I'm getting messages right now. It's bad. But yeah, I'm going to give you a quick preview of the application. So it's going to be kind of cool. So yeah, next slide. And so this is the Berkeley live bus tracking feature, which is one of our major features for the spring semester. So go to the next slide. And go ahead and hit play. So you can see we're opening the app now. Well, I am yesterday. And it's going to open up to the Bear Transit page. And you can see those little buses over there. And now I'm going to tap on I think it's the front field, so I can choose where to start. Unlike before where we couldn't choose where to start. So I'm going to start at Corey Hall, which is a place on the north side if you don't know. And then I'm going to go to Hearst Memorial Gym, which is where the old ASUC used to be. That was a common trip for me last year. And then now I'm going to just showing you the buses are updating. Some of them are stoplights, so they don't really like change location, but they're at stoplights, so that's why. And if you tap on these buses, which will happen in a couple seconds, you can see the line that the buses correspond to, so it will happen. So it's Southside 1, Southside 2, and Roadside. So you can see the buses moving. And then I can hit go, and I will be able to get routed. So I'll see these routes, and then I can tap on one of these. I'll know where my stop is, and if I scroll down, I'll know the exact route, just like before, so we can see exactly where we're going to go. And this is one of the bugs, which is weird at the top, so it doesn't zoom in properly, so that's what they're fixing right now. Cool. So that was live bus tracking. We'll move on to the next couple features. Food favoriting and sorting is also another feature that we're working on. We worked on it and we finished. It's pretty cool, so let's have a look at this one. So if you play it, you can open the app and you can see the wonderful dining halls that we have. That's great food. Crossroads is a common one that people go to. And I can now favorite things with these parks next to it. So I like croissants. Belgian waffles sounds good. I'm a dessert guy, or dessert breakfast guy. Good. What else do I like? I forgot what I like. Vegan. Oh, I chose vegan. Okay. Vegan still. And then you can see if I sort by favorites, then the favorite thingies come up at the top. I can even sort by things like vegetarianness or veganness if I want, so that people can get whatever options they like. Again, this is available on both iOS and Android after we release it. So yeah, that's the food favoriting and sorting. I'm just doing a little bit more like shaky tables and stuff. So yeah, we can move on to the next. Cool. And finally, there's library favoriting and sorting, which is very similar to what we just saw, except it's just for libraries. So why don't we go ahead and move on to the. So you can open the app and you can go to the libraries page, which is, and you can see that it's sorted already by the currently open libraries. So the open libraries are at the top, unlike before where they were in alphabetical order. So now I like the engineering library because I'm an engineer. And I also like a library that's closed because I wanted to show it as an example. So I'm going to scroll all the way to the bottom and find the closed libraries here. So I'm going to go pick that one. And then I'm going to sort it by favorites, so then you can see at the very top, all my favorite libraries show up. And then I can also sort it again by whether it's open or not. And that will happen in a couple seconds because when I was recording this, I talked to someone right now. So it'll happen. And yeah, there we go. See? Watch. Oh yeah. It's going to happen. See? There we go. And currently open. And there we go. So now all the open ones are at the top. So this is just a sorting thing that we did. And so yeah, this is the release for version 5. And that was the demo. So thank you for listening to the demo. I really appreciate it. I have one more announcement for you folks. There's a class called CS 169, which is called Software Engineering. And this class is a great class because people learn how to do software engineering. But that class needs projects because the people in the class do projects for nonprofits. The ASUC is a nonprofit. So if you have a technology project that you want to get done and you don't have engineers to do that technology project, you or a friend or someone, then you can submit your technology projects to the CS169 submission portal, and they'll see if they can do it for you. So now, I obviously prefer it if you run it by me so that I can help you with the technological and logistical feasibility of it, just to make sure that it can be done in a semester, it can be, and it's not going to be like, it can be done with the framework that they use. So like, you can certainly come to me. I'm going to be on call tomorrow from like 9 to midnight, 9 p.m., not a.m. 9 to midnight, because these things are due on Friday because the people need to get started now, because this is for a class, this is for a grade, and it's good because these people are getting a grade. So if they don't do a good job, they don't get a good grade. So your thingy could get done, which is a good thing. So whatever you want to do, just run it by me, and I can help you fill out the form. The person who teaches that class, his name is Armando Fox. He's my research advisor, so like, yeah, it'll be fun. So yeah, if you have any questions about that, please ask me now, and stuff like that.
Question, Senator Cho.
For the food, what happens if it's not available that day? So like you favorite something, and then it's not available that day, and then it comes back, will it come back, still favorited at the top of your list?
Yep. So like it stores it on your phone. If you go to a different phone, it doesn't work. But on the phone that you use, which most people don't really change phones that often, it'll show up. So if I like Belgian waffles and Belgian waffles come up 3 weeks from now, at any dining hall, mind you. So like if it's in Foothill, if I favorite it when it's at Foothill, I can still see it on the top if it comes up at Crossroads later.
Two more like just questions. So what if you have favorite something for lunch and it's offered for dinner?
Yeah, doesn't matter.
Also a general comment about 169 projects for the other senators. Your projects do have to be like a certain level of difficulty, so it's not like make an app with just this like one function. If it's a really easy function, it has to have like some layers to it. But you also have to be pretty clear about what you want, because if you don't know what you want, then they're not going to know what you want, and then it's going to go real bad real quick. So think it through.
It's going to have to be a web app. It can't be a mobile-based app because they're using the framework called Rails, which is mainly used for web applications, and that's what the class is for. And it's not supposed to be like just like a plain old website, like, oh, here's information. No, it's going to be something interactive. So one idea I had with Tony was a budget visualization thingy that you tap on stuff and then they'll zoom in, like kind of like we had last year, except I don't know where that went. So it would be cool if they had one of those things. More interactive, more data using, and people can enter things in there as well. Yeah, that would be cool. You had one, yeah.
Wait, so quick question with the favorite then is there's only a cheers if it's like if
Yeah.
you set that.
Yeah, I'm not gonna give you all your favorites. Yeah, because otherwise, like, what's the, like, then it's like your favorites are at the top, and it's like, oh, that really on the menu? Like, good, yeah. That can work. Yeah, yeah.
But what if you wanted to see all of your favorites and wanted to see if like a good majority of them were in some dining hall or like were being offered that day? Is that a feature function?
Yeah, so I mean, that could be done in the next one, actually. That's a good idea. So we can like stick in like, on the page that has all the dining halls, you can stick like, oh, 3 favorites here, 2 favorites here, 1 favorite here. That'd be cool. We also had an idea to do, the original spec called for push notifications when a favorite it comes, but we thought that would be really annoying because like, I'll favorite a lot of things because I like food, and then I'll be like, oh, Belgian waffles are here, oh, so are vegan scones, and so are all these other things. And we were like, nah.
Senator Morrow?
Would there be any way to track the data on the favorites for the food to pass over to people from Cal Dining to like track what students are eating?
Interesting. What, sorry? Oh, okay, cool. Yeah, there would be a way. It would be, yeah, I'm thinking about how to do that. Like, there would have to be an API call to our backend, and our backend would have to save that information somewhere. Yeah, it could happen. It would be annoying, but it could happen. Yes. So and so in my experience working with Cal Dining, Cal Dining has been Cal Dining, and I don't know if they'll use the data that we give them. Like, if they're gonna use the data that we give them, then we can try to do a sprint for that. Like, that seems like a valuable thing. But like, if you can talk to them and see like if they're gonna use it. Otherwise, because they haven't really been cooperative in the past a lot. So if that's the case, then we can certainly do that. Yeah. Is that not the case?
Any other questions? Thank you, Mahir.
Cool. So I looked at the agenda and I looked at today, and I saw that your thing is on the agenda, and which basically means that this meeting's probably going to go for a while. So the real reason, so the real question is, are you gonna stay the night? It doesn't mean you're bound for life. Oh, are you gonna stay the night? There we go.
So real quick before we go back to Alec, it came to my attention that the confirmation of Jerry Chang as public defender by judicial council was not put on the consent calendar, even though it went to, I think, GovCom and was passed there. So I do need a 2/3 vote to amend the agenda to add that onto the consent calendar. We'll go with all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. All those against, please say no. Right, so the agenda is amended. Going back to Attorney General Alec.
Hello, good evening. I've been pretty not active in the past week. I got a cold. But just some updates from my staffers, my staff, my office. We're taking on 4 new people this semester. We had a lot of applications, so we're actually interviewing a bunch of people. The projects we're working on include the more so the funding and sponsorship bylaws. We're working with the Lead Center and with Tony to kind of make that process, just write it down better so student groups can just know more about it, and so it's more fair. GA passed a resolution about this at the end of last semester and asking us to make the process just more clear, so that's something we're working on. It's being reviewed by a bunch of people, by Lead Center. I'll come to you in a few weeks. Other projects we're working on, we're still continuing our programs project, looking at all the ASUC programs. We're kind of moving into the next phase. We've collected all of the information from all the programs, and next we'll be kind of coming up with what are the similarities, how can we structure them to all kind of run together, and we'll be reaching out to the individual programs, getting to meet their leaders, officers, presidents, whatever, and starting that with them. Connected to that is commissions. I've had 2 people express to me that they want to turn their committees into commissions this year. I have meetings about that over the next 2 weeks. That's financial wellness and housing. I've also, there's a possibility that STEAM might want to come in as a commission, but that's very preliminary, so I don't know how that's going to happen. I'll be meeting with Les about that. Yeah. And lastly, I've actually been working a lot with AEDP this week. Our office has been. We're looking at the PSF and bylaws, kind of how it works. It's actually on the agenda today. There's a corporate meeting with the BSF Corporation today. During a recess of Senate, we're going to be meeting with Steve Ellenberg, our lawyer, just to go over BSF and how we can make it better. And yeah, that's generally what we've been working on. There's a few other projects. You can look at my written report. I don't want to keep you here. Yeah, any questions?
Senator Luke?
Sorry, what is
STEAM, so STEAM is the ASUC sustainability team. It used to be led by the ASUC Sustainability Commissioner, but that position kind of floated away, and now it's one of those programs that's kind of unclear like what the relationship to the ASUC is, and is it an ASUC program or is it a student group that's just on its own?
Any other questions? Thank you, Alec.
Thank you.
Next up, we have Governance and Internal Affairs Chair Morrow.
Hello, so in committee we passed SR 40, elections bylaws technical amendments. There's a lot in there that included stuff about the referendum thing that we were talking about. We passed that. Additionally, we we unanimously voted to pass the nomination of Jerry Chang on to the Senate floor for approval for the role of public defender. Joan Iva and John Ray want feedback about, they're trying to redevelop the SLI and EOLI programs, and one thing that they want feedback on, and so I encourage all of you, they reached out to GovCon, but like all the senators, is they want feedback on what attendance requirements people would want for that, and if there should be stipend reductions for people who don't attend. So yeah, I think that's everything.
Next up, we have External Affairs University Committee Vice Chair, so Bruce.
We did not meet this week because we have any bills. Thank you.
Finance Committee Chair, Vice Chair Tran.
We gave out funding. The biggest thing is called ABSA, ABSA, which stands for Annual Budgeting Spring Allocation. So we went over dates of when we would go through the appeals, which is the longest portion of that. So ABSA is basically all your constituents and all the student boards will be applying either as a new or they just have to be sponsored. So new or old board reapply for not only their budget, but they can apply for the cubicle space, etc. Just space, so space and budget. So annual budget space allocation. Oh yeah, space allocation. So that stuff's gonna be coming out from Tony Doe this upcoming week. But those are just dates, so please share that as much as you can, because it's the worst when a student group does not turn in their application and they've been on campus for like 20 years, and then because of their like leadership transition, they don't get a budget the next year, and then we have to give it to them through Senate contingency, which throws off everything. So yeah, top 75 senators.
Also, moving on to the consent calendar, are there any items that need to be pulled? Consent calendar passes with unanimous consent. Moving on to immediate consideration, we have the motion to suspend the rules to allow the renewal of the ASUC Bar Affordability and Accessibility Working Group Resolution, which requires a 2/3 vote pursuant to ASUC Bylaws 1201 9.9. So we will start the timer on a discussion. I believe we have 30 minutes set as a maximum time, unless extended, to debate on whether to suspend the rules to allow the ASUC Bar to allow this bill to be brought into new business. Does anyone have any questions on what you're debating? Great. Does anyone have comments?
Senator Loon.
Yeah, so I guess I can just provide some context. So after the bill was vetoed and pulled last semester, so we still went ahead and had a working group meeting. So to be fully transparent, I did not invite the External Affairs Vice President's office to that meeting, but they were still present nonetheless. And basically at that meeting, we realized that the main obstacle moving forward was determining where to find a source of funding for any sort of student discount. And so from there, then we basically realized that there were a lot of obstacles with that because no one really had an answer as to where the funding would come from. But due to a lot of miscommunication on my part especially, that's why EVP wasn't invited, and then so what ended up happening was I sat down with EVP Naveed and cleared things up, and she agreed that we would discuss how to rewrite the bill so that we could pass it together. So 2 weeks ago, I set up a meeting with EVP Naveed, and so she, for whatever reasons, was unable to make it to the meeting, so she let me know probably like 30 minutes before the meeting. And so she sent her local affairs director, Matthew Lewis, instead. And at that meeting, I basically presented the bill, and he didn't have any concerns at the time, and he told me that he needed a week to come up with concerns, basically. So I respected that and gave them a week, and so I rescheduled a meeting with EVP Naveed, so that was last Thursday. And we met, and she was very kind, and she brought me a big breakfast because she came a little late, but it was very nice of her to do that. And so basically we rewrote the composition of the bill. And the main thing that we changed was to change the chair person and how it worked out. So we changed it to have EVP appoint the chairperson for the committee. And so EVP Naveed agreed to co-sponsor the bill. And then on Monday, this Monday, so 2 days ago, I received a text from EVP Naveed, and she said that she needed to pull the co-sponsorship because they did not know about the administrators who did not support the initiative to begin with. But when I responded back asking who these administrators were, because to my knowledge, all these administrators are in support of any sort of initiative that would basically alleviate financial burdens on students. I received no response, and she would say I still have no response. But with that being said, I still believe that this bill is something that I want to work on, and this is an initiative I want to work on, and it would be really great if the EVP Naveed was here so that the EVP office could clear this up, but seeing as they're not here, I don't know what else to say.
Senator Bruns.
Clarifying question for what this would do, for what the bill will do. Put it back on the new business to be sent to a committee and then go through again, or would it go to the consent calendar? Just clarify.
It'd be sent to committee. Are there any questions or comments? Otherwise, we can move to a vote. Senator Dean.
I just want to affirm your experience, Senator Liu, validate you and what you're going through.
Any other questions, comments? Otherwise, we will Senator Rashifi.
Can you clarify what the rule is that we're suspending with this vote?
I don't have the language of the rule, but Uma can pull it up if he wants. But basically, when a bill has been when a bill has been taken off the floor, like retracted or vetoed and not brought back, you can't actually bring it back. Like once it's dead, it's dead. So you'd be suspending the rules to allow this bill to come back. If Attorney General Clement wants to add on to that, or Ron.
Yeah, so one of the basic principles of like, if you think about how you run a parliamentary body, is you can't reintroduce the same bill multiple times, right? Because if that was possible, someone could reintroduce the same bill, have it die, reintroduce it next week, and so on and so on. So a rule against that, our bylaws say that the rule in Robert's rules will be followed, and Robert's rule says that you can't redo bills in the same session. But our rules say that you can suspend that rule by a 2/3 vote. So you're suspending the, technically waiving, the things so you can put the same rule.
Any other clarification, questions? Senator Sheedy?
So the question isn't necessarily a clarification question, but I would like to hear any opposition to anyone who will vote against it. I would like to hear both sides since the affirmative has already spoken and is supported.
If anyone would like to speak? Otherwise, we'll move to a vote. I don't know if that was a hand, sorry. Okay. All right, moving on to a vote. We'll do roll call. Okay. All those, yes, we'll do roll call. So the vote right now is on whether you want to suspend the rules to allow the renewal of this bill. Senator Morrow?
Yes.
Senator Dean?
Yes.
Senator Paul?
No.
Senator Schuster?
Yes.
Senator Prasad?
Yes.
Senator Kim?
Yes.
Senator Salinas?
Yes.
Senator Yave?
No.
Senator Lau?
Yes.
Senator Bruins?
Yes.
Senator Adrianson?
No.
Senator Rashidi?
Yes.
Senator Cho?
No.
Senator Tran?
No.
Senator Tang?
Yes.
Senator Nguyen? Senator Vicente?
No.
Senator Liu?
Yes.
This bill does not, the motion fails to suspend the rules.
Just as a part of, like, as a point of personal inquiry.
Senator Prasad, please wait to be called on.
As a point of personal inquiry, why is a motion to suspend the rules versus a motion to reconsider the bill?
Attorney General, okay.
Let's see things here. So technically, it's whoever General Robinson's motion to waive the rule, right? Wait, not suspend. Minor technical difference, but that's how the bill was introduced and submitted as a new bill. Secretariat office contacted me what to do when you have the same bill submitted again. That's the definition on the agenda, as is like that. Reconsider would be a different question. Would you think that during the consideration? I don't remember how the bill was disposed of originally. I don't remember how it died, but you could undo that motion that killed it. By reconsidering that motion that killed it, but you would need to look in the minutes how it was killed. I think it was just.
It was tabled indefinitely. This is formally known as killing a bill because there's no way to I know this mostly from U.S. Senate rules, but basically it's tabled indefinitely.
But you can probably still reconsider, but that'll give you like 5 minutes to look up from this point. So if you're on your down that route.
As a follow-up, because if I remember correctly, motion to reconsider is a majority vote versus motion to suspend the rules to 2/3 vote. So with that, I'd like to make a motion to reconsider tabling Andre's bill indefinitely.
Is he allowed to do that?
Could we have a recess?
You can have a 2-minute recess for this.
Rod, can you look up at the minutes how that motion was disposed of? Yeah.
Where is it?
My bag over there.
Just got a little stressed.
I don't see it.
Okay, I have an answer. Reconsider can only be moved at the next day of the session after the original thing was voted on. It's in our bylaws. I'm just double checking. That's what Wikipedia says.
Before I call on senators, can I move to come back from recess, Alec, or do you need more time?
Yeah, you can start doing roll call.
All right.
Before we go back into session, can I make a comment?
You can make a general comment to senators.
So several senators voted no on this bill, and I have a question of why no one presented any argument beforehand when I asked for a no reasoning, and instead went straight to a no vote. I would like to hear the other side before voting on issues, and we heard a comment in for yes, but no one made a comment for no, and a solid chunk of this Senate class voted no, so I'm very confused on that matter.
So I'm going to move back into the Senate. I'm going to be taking roll call. Well, Senator Morrow.
Here.
Senator Dean. Senator Paul. Here. Senator Schuster. Here. Senator Prasad.
Here.
Senator Kim.
Here.
Senator Salinas.
Here.
Senator Yave.
Here.
Senator Lau.
Present.
Senator Chug. Senator Bruns.
Here.
Senator Adrianson.
Here.
Senator Sheedy.
Yep.
Senator Cho.
Here.
Senator Tran.
Here.
Senator Chang.
Here.
Senator Nguyen. Senator Vicente.
Here.
Senator Liu.
Here.
Senator Banks. Senator Chug. Senator Banks. Just as a comment, you do not need to have both sides of discussions, as it's not mandatory to have two sides of a discussion, but of course, if that's what the senator was requesting, that's something that you can just comment on if you'd like. I got a timer for. All right, so we have 17 minutes left for this discussion. Senator Morrow.
Point of personal inquiry. If the exact same bill was introduced with a different title, could that be done?
Attorney General Clement.
The language says substantially the same bill. I believe what would happen is your EVP would make a point of order, and you all would rule on that point of order, and you could overrule your EVP by majority vote. But to add a new bill to the agenda today, you would have to do a 2/3 vote.
All right, the vote failed, and we are now moving on to new business. FR3 will be going to FICOM. That's wrong.
Point of inquiry, so I submitted a new bill, like it was the same title, but it was amended, so that's why I think it's.
From my understanding and from what Secretariat spoke to the Attorney General Klimek before it came to the agenda, was that it could not be put in new business because it is essentially the same bill. It holds the same theme, but the same bill that was tabled indefinitely the first time.
So does that make it impossible to rewrite a new bill related to the working group?
It can be related, but it was under the opinion that this bill was similar to the previous bill that was submitted.
So who determines that? Is it just Attorney General and
No, it's EVP determines that. Generally acting on
Okay.
staff advice.
Yeah, answer.
But you can overrule EVP by a majority vote. By moving a point of order right now.
Can I move a point of order to that right now?
I'm trying to find the exact language that says how different it has to be acceptable. Matthew, do you have that? Do you have a copy of Robert's rules?
I gave you my copy. It's just old.
It's only pulled up, but I can't read this under.
Are we in session?
Yes, we are. Attorney General Klimek.
Yes. Page 300.
In the meantime, SR 42 will go to XCOM. SR 43 will go to XCOM. And SR 44 will go to GovCom.
Okay, so it says renewal of motions is limited by the basic principle that an assembly cannot be asked to decide the same or substantially the same question twice during one session.
But I don't know what that means.
It means it's up to Senate it's up to you to interpret what that means. And it's up to Senate to overrule if they don't think what you say. What you interpret that means.
So my understanding was that because the bill passed, it was vetoed, it came back to Senate, and then in Senate it was tabled indefinitely. Yeah. My understanding was that in order for us to there to be a need for a motion to reconsider or something like that, the bill actually had to have been voted on. But it wasn't voted on after it was vetoed. So can we not pull it from the table and reconsider it?
What was the exact word of it being pulled off?
It was tabled indefinitely. I found the minutes for October 21st. It was tabled indefinitely. After they were reconsidering the veto.
So it's not a real motion. So I guess it would be postponed indefinitely, but you can reconsider that, and then it comes back to Senate on the floor as if the bill that was vetoed. Senate immediately votes whether to override the veto or not. It requires a two-thirds vote to override the veto.
Right.
So if you want to go down that route, that's another route to go down.
Senator Prasad.
So this is just a general question. From my understanding, what Senator Lewis presented today, he met with interested groups, made changes to the bill, substantial changes through many meetings, and then resubmitted a completely new bill. So it's not anywhere remotely the exact same as the bill that was vetoed. So in a way, it sort of functioned as democracy is supposed to function. You had a disagreement, it was killed off, they talked to the interested parties, and there was no agreement reached. So why is this bill being considered the same as the original bill? That's my question.
And that's up to you all to decide. If you want to move a point of order right now, and challenge, Lavania's ruling that the bill is substantially the same, you can do that right now. Just remove that point of order. Lavania will decide the point of order. You will then appeal over the point of order.
How many votes would that take? Majority?
Oh, God.
It's a majority. You said majority support.
I believe it's a majority, but I don't know how the tiebreaking rule works. So I would have to look that up.
Allie, can you just tell me what I need to say to the act? I don't understand
Senator Clement, would you like to come take a seat where there's a microphone?
I'm not a senator.
I mean, attorney It's a little difficult to hear you from over here, so I would appreciate if you could come down over here. Thank you.
Where am I coming down?
Here, right here.
Oh, yeah. Christina.
Yeah, he's reserved for you.
So, what are we doing here? We're doing a point of order.
Just to make this a different, it's a different bill, so it should be considered as a different bill, so it should be sent to the
Just move a point of order that you contend that it's a different, substantively different bill.
Senator Lou.
Point of order to contend that this is a different bill, substantively.
And then you rule on it. You decide if it's substantively different or not.
No, it's not substantially different.
Okay. And now someone moves to appeal you.
I motion to appeal.
And now let's have what is needed on it. You should probably start a roll call vote right now, and by the time you're done, I'll.
Is there time to compare the two bills, or no? Is it just a straight vote? I don't know if there's a debate allowed, that's all I'm asking.
I'm trying to text comparison.
Okay, once again, the motion on the table is to overrule the EVP's decision that the bill is not substantively different than the previous one. So we can take a vote on this, or we can have debate on it. So anyone who wishes to speak may speak on this matter. Otherwise, we'll move to a vote to overrule Lonnie's decision. Yes, Senator Morrow.
So quick point of order with that. Is a yes vote voting in favor of appealing EVP John
Yes.
ruling? Okay.
That is correct. Yes, Senator Kim.
Can I ask a personal question, or does my question have to be directly towards what we're voting on right now?
Yes.
Towards this
I mean, is it about the bill, or?
I just want to know, actually just want to know why folks are saying no and what the reason behind that is, because we can't just go to a vote without blindly not understanding what the opposition is. So if anyone feels comfortable in speaking out of it, I would love to hear the other side.
So just as a little history, so I'm going to try to introduce a bill. Melania says that it's the same bill that we already had. You all, Sina says it isn't, and now you're all voting to decide that. You have to get a majority vote to overrule Melania. And right now your debate is limited to whether it is substantially the same bill. You can't discuss the merits of the bill. You can only discuss the merits of Melania's decision about similarity. So you want to pull up both bills and compare them side by side. That's up to you all.
Yes, Senator Dean.
About similarity, from my understanding, Senator Liu met with EAVP, Naveen or Matthew or whoever from her office, and they, both times, first time we met, it was fine, put through, second time we met, made amendments, fine, put through, then pulled back both times. I'm very confused with that and what's the reasoning behind that and the logic behind that. And that, I think, is a question that does have to do with similarity. And to be very frankly honest, this seems very political. Obviously, it's divided by political lines. Like, just if you are in opposition, like if it's a political reasoning behind that, that's fine. But if you really do have claims and actual logic and reasoning, please share that with us. We're a Senate class for a reason. I'm very disappointed right now by a lot of you, 2/3 of you to be exact. 1/3, sorry.
Other comments?
Let's vote.
Okay, we will now move to a vote on whether to appeal the EVP's decision that the bill is not substantively different. All in favor of appealing the EVP's decision, say aye. Aye. All opposed, say no. The motion passes. The bill is substantively different from the old one, and it may be reintroduced. Alec, does this mean it goes into new business? Oh, it does. Okay. Okay. So now it is a new business, and I believe we. What?
So that would have been SR 41. No. SR 41 will go to. Just Control Z. Okay. This will go to XCOM and GovCom. Now, we will be moving into a Senate recess and get into the Berkeley Student Foundation corporate meeting. All right, I move into recess to formally meet as the Berkeley Student Foundation corporate meeting. I will, Alec, how long do they need?
Is Melissa here to run the meeting?
She can be here in a minute.
Yeah, you'll probably need like 3 minutes, but someone needs to take minutes. I have Jesse's here.
Right, all right, we are now in recess. I'll be setting a time of 5 minutes for this meeting, and then we'll move moving back into Senate.
If the bill was tabled from the Senate floor, is there a reason why it's going directly back into committee instead of coming back onto the Senate floor?
It was introduced as a new bill, and so therefore goes to new business.
If you untabled it, you would have needed a 2/3 vote to pass it.
Right, so the tabled bill is basically gone forever. Now it's a new bill, so now it goes through the whole process again.
Oh, okay, great. So, for BSF members, basically, and everyone else, I guess, basically, there's a bunch of random articles that we have in our drive, and we don't know which one is the right one, so we decided that this is the right one that we've been following all along. And we just need to get approved by BSF that this is the right article. So that's what this meeting is for. So let's convene the meeting. It's 10:03 p.m. I'm going to take roll. Senator Vicente.
Here.
Senator Nguyen.
Here.
Senator Tran.
Here.
Senator Cho.
Here.
Senator Yave.
Here.
Senator Kim. And the scholarship coordinator could not make it today, but that's quorum. So we're going to vote on whether the transcribed BSF bylaws are the official version of the articles of the BSF. So can I have a motion to approve this? Motion to approve the transcribed BSF bylaws, the official version of the articles. Great. So, motion was moved by Senator Nguyen and seconded by Senator Tran. So, it passes. Meeting is adjourned at 10:04 p.m. Thank you.
I reconvene the Senate meeting at 10:04 p.m. Will Morrow. All right, we'll go the other way. Alana Banks. Andre Liu. Boomer Vicente. Diana Nguyen. Jason Tane. Kathy Tran. Ria Cho. Sina Rashidi. Wes Adrianson. Zoe Bruns. Archel Chug. Alicia Lau. Benedict Yave. Quatima Salinas. Grace Ho-Jun Kim. Hardik Prasad. Rachel Schuster. Sheena Hall. Alana Banks. Archel Chug. Moving into announcements, today we'll start at Sina.
So a couple announcements from my office. We are moving forward with our technology mental health resources project. We are finalizing our bids from different companies that we've got, presenting it to UHS, and with our initial meeting, we hope that it's going to be accepted. It showed a lot of interest. Yeah, and the other issue I'd like to address is that if we're voting on things, I would like to hear both sides, and I'd rather hear how this is not going to benefit the student body or benefit the student body rather than voting for personal matters that I won't discuss in this building right now. So please keep that in mind. It's just a personal note that I think is really important.
Hey everyone, so I actually am looking for y'all's feedback in terms of coffee. I'm in an NDA, so I can't do details, but in terms of what we could potentially build with a potential small new funding source, we're in conversation with the GA about what we want to do. So let me know if you have ideas or input. We just want to talk to them right now. Regarding what Senator Rashidi just said, folks have no obligation to get into a huge argument right now about a bill that's eventually going to be vetoed again later. So that's sort of how we see it. Thanks.
Cool, so good vibes. Great meeting. Cool, so announcements-wise, it's been a big week for risk management. I think good news, we didn't have any transports in the community last weekend, which is it was also fraternity rush, which is a pretty big deal. So I think that's a pretty good accomplishment. There was one person who called but was not transported, again, a good thing, people were calling, and one person who was transported that was not a student, so I'm talking student community. Anyway, yay. Obviously GLA was a big deal last week, it passed, we can talk about it, good questions, there's a lot of people in this room and outside of this room who were around for it, come talk to us. Enforcing standards, it's going to be a big semester for enforcing standards, especially the new ones that have come about because of GLA, but also just community, like we kind of want to fight a little bit for student-led change. So that's like another good thing. And we're enforcing our own standards is what I mean by that. I'm not communicating credit, but come talk to me if you have questions. There's a fun design challenge from Party Safe. If you can come get the information from me, but if you're like good at like graphic designing, I think this would be a super cool opportunity. You can get you get a lot of money if you win, I think, so go for it. CERC is still working on a good Samaritan policy. The language will probably be, hopefully it'll be implemented by this semester. So working the language, if you have thoughts on that, you can come talk to me or Rachel Schuster. Benefit care coverage, we heard a lot about that tonight, I'm not going to go over it again, but if you have questions about that, you can talk to me, I will. I'm also working on it, so if you have suggestions or whatever, come talk. And then my office is trying to put out a safety survey by the end of this week for DC Village residents, so if you have ideas, come talk to me, go Bears.
Hi everyone, so the 5K run was really awesome. Thank you for everyone that came out and supported. It was just really fun to see the whole community come out, and we were able to raise enough money to donate about 53 therapy sessions to the King's
Hi everyone, two things. So I was asked by a friend to advertise volunteering for the Clinton Global Initiative University thing. So there's flyers here. So that's a thing where Clinton comes in and you do stuff. I don't exactly know what. But their flyers are here. I think there's a Facebook event too. And then second thing is this Friday is the deadline to add a class without a fee. So don't forget, while you're serving your communities and stuff like that, don't forget, save yourself the $5 so you can go get a turkey burger at Street View. All right, thanks everyone.
Hello everyone. There are a lot of senators that might run for exec, but in order to run for exec, you have to become better senators. Good night.
Couple updates. In terms of Docu Week, there are a couple major changes, and the reason being is that I didn't realize that the week after spring break is when hard campaign starts, and my office as well as RISE thought that having whiteboards and selling t-shirts and throwing events on Sproul was pretty ineffective during that week because no one's going to want to be on Sproul, which is very unfortunate. But so we decided that we're going to focus on one major event, which is going to be the career fair, with the professional workshop. So that's one update. And another, I guess this is my personal opinion how I see this issue. Usually I'm pretty stable when I'm talking, but I get really emotional, especially in times like this, because I feel as though the bill that's being introduced, the reason why it's not even a controversial bill, it's for sure to help the students, but it's being debated, and the negative vibes that are flowing here are because of party politics, and I see this very similar to what's happening in our U.S. Congress and DREAM Act, and it's supposed to help students, but it's being shut down because of party politics. So it makes me really angry to see it. And I hope that in the future we can move on as senators who we actually serve the students and not get so caught up in running for execs and votes and all that stuff.
Okay. So, a couple things, update, high figures. No, I'm just kidding. The deadline's coming up for student technology fee. There's a fast track funding proposal deadline on February 15th that's coming up. So if any of your offices are creating new technology programs for next semester or any clubs and organizations that are interested, please make sure that you submit it in time or contact Rhea or I. We're more than happy to look over your proposal. Last week, we as a committee started reviewing some of the larger scale proposals, so upwards of 6 figs, upwards of 10K, so some substantial programs are going to be created on behalf of students. I will be coming in sometime either late March or early April to give you a full presentation on those large scale programs, and just to make sure the ASUC is fully informed on what we're going to be voting on, or at least I'm going to be voting on, and just give you all the context and perhaps answer some of the questions that you may have, because this is a substantial amount of student fees that are going to be invested in these programs. Other things, yes. So, on my comments of today, I'm really happy that we got this book at the beginning of the semester. Finding it very, very useful. It's a great read. Second, some senators have made comments on how you have a right to be silent in some spaces, and I completely agree. There are spaces in which you have a right to be silent. You can exercise that. However, at least in my opinion, you are left to be a voice of your constituencies and a voice of the people. That's what you asked when you went around and asked them for your vote, and they gave you that support, and you are here at this table because of that support. So it should be your right, it should be your duty to exercise a voice, even if it's not a popular opinion. Once all of you disagree with my opinions, and I'm perfectly fine with that. And I still have to say it because it's at least what I believe my job is as a senator, and I hope all of you feel that in some way. We may not always see eye to eye on all the issues, but this is a space where we're meant to disagree. We're meant to agree most of the time when it helps students. So I'm just gonna put that out there, and please, if you disagree, we're more than happy to listen out, but I would love to come to some actual agreements that benefit students. So, thank you all for listening to my slightly winded speech, and good night.
Hello. I'm gonna start with some really good news. Zoe actually got into the CGI program, so that's super cool. If you want to volunteer and go help her out, that's super cool. On that note, spending a lot of time with Zoe doing party safe stuff lately, so that's been really great. We had a roundtable last night for party safe, so we talked a lot about risk management there. That was productive. BDC dance season, or audition season, is basically over. It wraps up this weekend with PCN, so that's exciting. That's going to be followed by the first dance club meeting next week. Anybody's welcome to come. And then this is like kind of awkward, but I have been talking with AAVP and Joe, who you all know, about a project that I wanted all of us to do together, so it's like kind of awkward and nothing would happen tonight. But I really, we sent out an email tonight. Hopefully it'll lift everyone's spirits to work on something together. I was approached by David Presti, if you all know who like the drugs and the brain professor is. We sat on a committee together, and he was really excited about this one thing that he wanted to get started, and I was like, oh, I should get the whole Senate class on it, and maybe the execs too. So I talked to Melissa about it. She's super down. Hopefully you all will be too. So look out for an email from me probably tomorrow, because I'm going to say that I'm here tonight. So look out for that. And then otherwise, if you need me this weekend, it probably won't be that reachable because I'm going to be in LA leadership conference. So I'm really excited about that. Other than that, yeah, just look out for my email, and hopefully we can pick up the spirits by working together on something. Go Bears. Hi, on a lighter note, I've spent all day writing sex puns for consecutive grams next week. Yay! So yeah, that's happening next week with my office, AAVP, Sexual Assault Commission, so that's really exciting. I have to be kind of quiet, my throat hurts. I had a really, really great meeting today with SAO Chief of Staff Selena. We talked a lot about the new policy and how we want to get across the information about the new policy to different communities on this campus. I'm going to create infographics and stuff, so we're really excited about that and do different presentations for different communities, and working with a student of theirs to hold a forum for an additional presentation. And then also had a meeting with BSC President Austin Briska, former senator, today as well, talking about recruitment that's going on for the POC House, more scholarship opportunities for BSC students, and yeah. Hi everybody. So 4 words that you'll be hearing from me this semester is, SWANA is not a word, but SWANA, Islamophobia, Solidarity, and Community. That is a constituency that I represent, and those are the problems and issues that we face on a daily basis on this campus, as well as our daily lives. So, with that being said, I did email you all over winter break about solidarity workshops, and many of you have responded to me, so I'm really excited to call you into my cow and speak to you too, Sean. And checking with you about that and what allyship looks like and what solidarity looks like. Really excited, really excited. And I'm also working with other UCs to organize a UC-wide day of action against Islamophobia and basically racism in all its forms. I'm really excited about that as well. If any of you want to get involved in that in any way possible, let me know. And having loads of conversations with administrators about SWANA safe spaces and mental health advocacy for our communities, and just feeling very grateful for the collaboration, the collaborative spirit that I'm receiving from them, from the House Institute of Fair and Inclusive Society, and from our apology director, Dawn, in which SWANA is currently housed in. So yeah, I think right now, Miriam, EADP Naveed has passed the UC essay bill, and that's basically calling for all the UCs to join this day of action and creating accountability for that. And then in a few weeks, I will also be passing a bill through Senate about Islamophobia as well. Please let me know if you want to see that and check it out, make any edits or amendments prior to it coming to the committee or Senate floor. And beyond that, just, really emotional to be here. I miss you all. It's weird. I'm really not an emotional person, but I'm really excited to be back and take action and call everyone out on their bullshit when they have this semester. That's my run as an independent senator. All right, take care. Good night.
Good evening. So we all heard Bahar's presentation tonight. I am sitting on the SHIAC committee along with Gabby Wanta. If you recall from the resolution that Zoe and I introduced, it really calls for Gabby and I to be voting based off of kind of what you all are thinking. That's part of one of the therefore be it resolved clauses. And so I'd really love your feedback on the SHIP stuff. You got it down to these 10 possible options that we worked with. When it was originally given back to us, we had over 30 some, and this is what we got because we knew to prioritize, and we fought for prioritizing dependent continuation students, as well as trying to get plans that are in line with our core values. There's a lot of differentiation between, say, grads and undergrads being on the same payment plan and grads and undergrads being split, and I want your feedback on that. Additionally, I want feedback on the types of benefits offered by each of the respective plans. This is really important. I want people to come to me with this stuff, and I'm making myself available. Additionally, February 11th, 4 to 5:30, I would encourage you all to put this in your calendars. I'm going to be sending you a Facebook invite. In Anahead Alumni Hall is when they're going to be having the SHIP forum on whatever we decide is our final options for the new insurance program. There will be snacks and beverages provided. Woo! And I'm fully expecting a large representation from the graduate student community. And so if you all want to make sure undergrad voices do get heard, I encourage you to come out, invite your constituencies, invite underrepresented constituencies who are not currently in the room in SHIAC. That is super, super important. So yeah, please talk to me offline about that stuff. Additionally, I don't know if any of you all saw this. I had an article I submitted to the Daily Cal yesterday about California Assembly Bill 1711 that was recently introduced. This bill is, in my opinion, pretty problematic. Basically, what it would do is it would cap the enrollment of out-of-state and international students at 15.5% at all UC campuses. For reference, currently at UC Berkeley, we're at 24.52%. Well, I'm not necessarily opposed to the idea of accepting more in-state students, vis-a-vis out-of-state or international. It's still problematic that we're trying to make a cap at such a low number. Additionally, something that's super, super scary about this piece of legislation is that until a school, UC, is at that 15.5% mark, they cannot accept a single out-of-state or international student, which would mean, likely in the coming year, we would not be able to accept a single out-of-state or international student for an entire year, maybe even 2, which is definitely something that would cause a lot of havoc, to say the least. And I'm going to be going to lobby on this in March when it comes onto the assembly floor in Sacramento. I encourage you all to join me. I'd be happy to introduce a resolution through the ASUC to see if the ASUC would take a stance on it. But I also know I wouldn't want to make anything that could potentially be difficult to pass through here. So if people want to come on their own as individuals, I'd be happy to have you join me on that as well. Finally, yesterday I met with all the executive members of the Golden Bear Advisory Council. This is the student athlete advisory team. They have not really interfaced with the ASUC in many years. And this is a group that technically is kind of like the representative body of student athletes within the student athlete community. A community that historically cannot elect a senator given student athlete schedules. So that was exciting. It was really cool to hear a lot of their concerns, and they're going to be sending around a survey of what matters to student athletes. Additionally, and why I'm bringing this up to all of you, is next week a liaison from the GVAC is scheduled to come in and speak at Senate. Trust me, they are super nervous. They've never interfaced with ASUC, and I was trying to tell them we don't bite, we're nice. But come prepared with questions. These are, they don't know what to expect. They haven't really interfaced with us. So that's a big opportunity to potentially start long-term collaboration with an underrepresented community there. So thank you.
Hey everyone, so just a quick update. So AVP Naveen finally responded, as you can see from the email. So she stated that there were administrative concerns, which I asked about which administrators, because again, I do not know of any administrators who do not support this initiative. But that being said, thank you to everyone for validating a lot of the struggle that I went through with going through this bill. But on a funner note, so I'm going to be working on textbook affordability with CalPERG, and I'm going to be drafting a bill soon related to latex bans. So I was approached by someone who is very passionate about that, and so I'll be working on that soon. Additionally, there will be a fun event later in the semester called Celebrate Cal. So that's something I'm working on with the Office of Senator Tang and DCFO. And the nice thing about this event is it can't be vetoed. But that's all. Thank you.
No nonsense.
So hi everyone. Today we were supposed to have the service fair, but the rain yesterday they said that it was going to rain today, so I canceled it. There's no rain. It's been very annoying. But you can always tell your groups that tentatively it's going to be moved next Wednesday. Same time, same agenda, same idea. And then lastly, I think just want to remind folks of the idea or the community agreement of calling in. I personally have my own reasons for why I voted the way I voted. I'd be happy to explain that too. Please don't make assumptions about other folks in the space. I'd like to be respectful of that. I know last time when we had this discussion, it was a very long and lengthy discussion. I think from what I understand, other folks are voting the way they are because they feel the same exact way that they did before. So thank you for your time.
Hello everyone. So a few announcements. First of all, my office, ASUC and ASUC, we started a thing called Second Impressions of Berkeley. So it's like Humans of Berkeley, no, Humans of New York and Humans of Berkeley, but for more tailoring towards international students and really portray what kind of international students struggles go through here on campus. And then secondly, next week, next Wednesday, I can't be there, so sad, but iLink. So I have an ASUC in my office, as well as hosting an alumni networking dinner for mainly for international students called iLink at Poly Ballroom. This is because a lot of international students go through this H-1B lottery system, like we don't know how to apply to stay a job visa here in Berkeley, so you can stay in America. So we started this thing. Hopefully, those people who got a visa will be able to teach current students to see how to apply. So yeah, that's everything.
Two quick things. One is planning on writing a resolution for a campaign called Education for All. It's bringing back another form of affirmative action, without race, but it's not colorblind. It's focusing on low-income foster youth and English learners, so that's about 90% people of color. And just like Will said, I'd be interested in talking to individuals about it, because I think, well, depending on your stance on how you want diversity on campus. And the second thing is hosting a seminar called Funding 101 for Students of Color for the MCC next Monday. So if you're on a fund and you have small unsaid rules about how you go about your funding grants and all that, those are things that have been really hard for people to navigate in this institution. So I wanted to talk to y'all and send me those things so I can present it to the MCC. They've been wanting this presentation for a while, so that'll be happening on Monday. Thanks.
Any announcements?
Moving on to roll call. Will Morrow. Here. Smaidi. Sheena Paul. Rachel Schuster. Karthik Prasad. Here. Grace Vajan Kim. Here. Quantimo Salinas. Here. Benedict Yave. Here. Alicia Lau. Present. Anshul Chen. Zoe Broom. Here. Wes Adrianson. Here. Nina Rashidi. Yep. Rita Cho. Here. Kathy Tran. Here. Jason Tang. Here. Diana Nguyen. Ruben Vicente. Here. Andre Liu. Here. Alana Banks. Anshul Chen. Alana Banks. I adjourn this meeting at 10:28 p.m.
I just invited you all to the ship forum on Facebook. Share it with your friends. Anybody, anyone, everyone.